Chapter 2655. It's over. 3. When Leng Xiaoqing heard this, he glanced at Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree who were playing around on the battlefield. In addition, there were a few small beasts and their battle team. Do we still need to take action? There are. The Lan clan's old ancestor nodded. It was a little embarrassing to not do anything. They were men. As a man, Leng Xiaoqing could understand the Lan clan's old ancestor's thoughts. He nodded helplessly and said, "Then let's make our move. Everyone do what you can." Leng Xiaoqing's words were filled with sorrow. Everyone's mood was indeed heavy. However, their low mood was quickly replaced by the will to fight. When they were on the battlefield, these people were all full of energy and high spirits. Upon seeing this, Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree took the initiative to withdraw from the battle, leaving the rest of the battle to them. As for the two of them, they took out a deck chair and placed it at the city gate. They also took some food and watched the show. The ugly middle-aged man who was hung on the city wall was very clear-headed, and when he saw the tragic state of his side and the casual state of the two women at the city gate, he directly spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted from anger. Ayaya! I fainted. The golden eagle flew over and landed on Leng Ruoxue's shoulder, waiting for her to feed it. He threw a piece of dried meat to the hawk out of habit. The hawk swallowed it and shouted, "Delicious! Delicious! It's much more delicious than Sun Muma's cooking." Leng Ruoxue was speechless. She could not help but ask, "I heard that you're doing well at Sun Tao's place. You're a boss now? There's food and drinks, and there's even someone to serve you?" "Hee hee. I was just lucky." The golden hawk replied humbly. "Kid, tell us, what did you do to make Sun Tao and the others so afraid?" The mother parasol tree was also quite curious about this. "Nothing much. I just draw circles and curse them from time to time. Once they're scared, they'll grant me whatever I ask for." The golden hawk frowned and thought for a while. When Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree heard this, the question marks in their hearts increased. "They're scared of you after you curse them?" Leng Ruoxue was filled with doubt. My curses are very accurate, hee hee." The golden hawk sneered. "Oh really? Then curse him." Leng Ruoxue pointed at the city wall, planning to let the golden eagle use the ugly middle-aged man as an experiment. Otherwise, how could she possibly believe it? "All right, I curse him to be struck by lightning," the golden hawk said without thinking. Leng Ruoxue and the parasol tree raised their heads to look at the sky. The sky was clear and there were no dark clouds in sight. How could there be thunder in such weather? Just as the two of them were feeling extremely puzzled, suddenly, a bolt of lightning as thick as a baby's arm descended from the clear sky and struck the ugly middle-aged man. The other party's body was charred black, and there was a burning smell. This time, Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree were completely stunned. Coincidence? This was definitely a coincidence. The sky was still clear. How could there be lightning? They must be seeing things. The two of them couldn't believe it and continued to experiment. This time, their test subject was Sun Tao. The golden hawk was still cursing Sun Tao to be struck by lightning. After waiting for a while, Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree saw a thick bolt of lightning descending from the sky above Sun Tao. It struck Sun Tao's head and knocked him out. When Leng Xiaoqing, who was fighting with Sun Tao, saw this, he was stunned and completely at a loss. What was going on? Leng Xiaoqing looked at Leng Ruoxue and saw that she too did not make a move at all. He hesitated for a moment before he turned to look for his next opponent. This is real? The same scene caused the mother parasol tree to widen its eyes. Leng Ruoxue was also very surprised. She pulled the golden eagle over and asked, "How did you do it?" "I don't know. I just wanted them to be unlucky, and they really were unlucky." The golden hawk was also confused. "Oh, when did you discover that you had such a talent?" The mother parasol tree asked in surprise. I only realized it when they took me away," the golden hawk said proudly. "Thanks. Then why didn't they lock you up when they knew you had such talent? Why did they let you run around and cause trouble?" The mother parasol tree could not understand. Was it threatened by the golden eagle? "They want to lock me up, but they can't." The golden hawk became a little smug again. Can't be locked? What's the meaning of this? The mother parasol tree was a little confused. I know how to pick locks. The golden hawk proudly shouted. A skill? Alright. It seemed that they had worried for nothing for this little guy. Although this little thing was a little stupid, if he was really caught, he still had many ways to escape. Taking a deep breath, Lung Ruoxue started to pity Sun Tao and the rest. However, she still feigned anger and said, "Why didn't you come back earlier if you knew how to open locks? You made us worry for you. I don't know the way." The golden hawk felt wronged. It thought for a while and then added, "I knew those bad guys were coming to find you, so I followed them here. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to them leading the way. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to see you now." Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree pitied Sun Tao and the rest even more. Meanwhile, the golden hawk continued to surround the two of them and act coquettishly. After a long time, with Lung Shaoqing and the others cleaning up the scene, Sun Tao and the others were all annihilated. This time, Lung Ruoxue had witnessed Sun Tao's death with her own eyes. Naturally, Sun Tao had died with a grievance. However, no one cared about what he thought. Everyone applauded and cheered for the absence of such a malignant tumor in the Haotian continent. Just as everyone was in a good mood, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Oh no, it seems like Sun Tao still has some strength left. We've forgotten about those people." The remaining forces he was referring to were the people that Sun Tao had sent out to chase after the other forces. Until now, those people had not returned, so many people felt that their mission to eliminate Sun Tao had not been completed. "Don't worry, we've already eliminated the others." At this time, a voice rang out from behind everyone. Everyone hurriedly turned their heads, just in time to see the head butler of Wanshan City leading a group of people, slowly approaching. Hearing these words, everyone suddenly understood. No wonder they didn't see the head butler of Wanshan City just now. It turned out that they had quietly gone to chase after those people. Since there were no more fish that had escaped the net, everyone's hearts were at ease. Following that, it was naturally a huge celebration. Sun Tao and the others, who had been weighing on their hearts for many years, had been wiped out. It was as if a huge stone had been lifted off their hearts. In the future, their descendants would be able to walk freely on the Haotian continent. This fact made many people cry with joy. After 3 days and 3 nights of celebration, the people from Wanshan City and the Luo family were all mingling with the crowd. However, Lung Ruoxue kept a low profile. She, the mother parasol tree, and a few of her little beasts stayed in the falling snow garden and did not leave the house. No one dared to disturb them. As for the 5 precious little beasts, they also knew about the golden eagle's innate talent. After testing it out curiously, they all decided in their hearts that they would treat the golden eagle better in the future. Otherwise, the consequences of being cursed by it would be unimaginable. In fact, they were worried for nothing. The golden hawk treated them as its own people, so it never cursed them. But from then on, the golden hawk's happy days came. When the matter with Sun Tao and the rest had settled down for the time being, Lung Ruoxue had to consider the issue of her family's land. With the communication between the chief steward of Wanshan City and the few forces she had chosen, they quickly chose a successor for their own forces. The top forces of Wanshan City, Luo City, and Proud Cold City did not dare to have any complaints because they were afraid of Lung Ruoxue's might. However, for the sake of the Haotian continent's temporary peace, Lung Ruoxue still told them that she had already communicated with the Lan family. Sun Tao's territory was free for them to divide. Upon hearing this news, the forces that failed to be selected were naturally overjoyed. They adjusted their teams and immediately rushed towards Sun Tao's sphere of influence. Although the people brought by Sun Tao had been completely wiped out, there were still some people left behind in Sun Tao's faction. However, in order to deter them, Sun Tao had sent out almost all of his main force. Therefore, the strength of those people left behind was not high. The combined strength of several teams was enough to eliminate them. Furthermore, they did not dare to trouble Lung Ruoxue with such a small matter. On Lung Ruoxue's side, there were many things that she had to do. In addition to Ao Han City and Wanshan City, Luo City also needed to send someone to receive them before handing them over to the next master. Naturally, most of the people heading to Luo City were from the Luo family. However, the chief steward of Wanshan City, who had nothing to do, also followed along. They said that they were helping, but in fact, they just wanted to join in the fun. The moment they left, Lung Ruoxu's side became quiet. The Lung family was also busy with the handover, and even the Lung brothers did not have the time to disturb her. On a certain day, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree sat in the garden, drinking tea and chatting as usual. Suddenly, a blue figure scuttled in front of the two of them and fell beside Lung Ruoxue's feet. She hugged her leg and wailed, "Shue, you're abandoning me again, you're really disloyal, even Wudi is leaving me this time. Why is my life so hard?" Lung Ruoxue was speechless. What was Lan Lai doing? The mother parasol tree gloated, "Little guy, didn't Schwerer say that I can take you with me?" Lan Lai was bawling his eyes out. There were still tears in his eyes. He was at a loss. He wanted to go to the divinity, but, sighing lightly, Lung Ruoxue helplessly said, "All right, don't cry, you look so ugly. Go back and ask the Lan family. I can bring along those who are willing to go to the divine realm. However, when you go to the divine realm, you will have to pay for all the expenses and have to start from scratch. So you'd better let them think it through." Chapter 2656. To settle old scores. 1. Lan Lai, who was bawling his eyes out, raised his head when he heard this. He looked at Lung Ruoxue in disbelief and said, "Schwer, what did you say?" "I said that I can bring the Lan family along to the divine realm, but you have to pay for your own expenses." Lung Ruoxue sighed softly and repeated. She had a good relationship with Lan Lai and had already taken Lan Ming in. In this case, it didn't matter if it was one sheep or a group of sheep, so she didn't care if more people took him with her. Besides, she couldn't stand Lan Lai crying like an abandoned wife. Those who didn't know would think that she had bullied him. Schwer, are you really willing to do it?" Lan Lai still couldn't believe his ears. His eyes were wide open. But your Lan family might not be willing to come with me." Lung Ruoxue reminded with a smile. Since she had already said it, she would not go back on her word. However, whether the Lan family was willing to leave or not, she could not control it. They'll think of a way to convince them. After Lan Lai confirmed it, he stood up as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He greeted them again and ran out of the room in a hurry. Looking at Lan Lai's anxious expression, the mother parasol tree could not help but tease, "What an impatient little guy. It seems that he doesn't want to stay in the Haotian continent anymore. Lan Lai is smart. They'll have to go to the divine realm sooner or later. If they come with me now, I'll have to take care of them more or less. I can't really bring them to the divine realm and leave them to their own devices." Lung Ruoxue said calmly, "What a smart little fellow. However, I'm quite surprised that you're willing to take him there even though you know what he's thinking." The mother parasol tree smiled faintly. "Doesn't the land of demons need people?" Lung Ruoxue smiled calmly. In reality, as the young master of a large family, how could she not think for the family? This was also the reason why even if Lan Lai was dissatisfied with some people in the family, he had no choice but to fight for their interests. Otherwise, even if Lan Lai left with her, he would still miss some people in the family. If that was the case, why wouldn't she do Lan Lai a favor? After receiving Lung Ruoxue's approval, Lan Lai immediately went to find the Lan family's old ancestor. Although this ancestor of the Lan family was not the most powerful in the Lan family, he definitely had an important voice in the Lan family. He was also very fond of the greatest ancestor. Lan Lai also believed that as long as he could convince him, things would be much easier. At that time, his stubborn grandfather would have no choice but to agree. Lan Lai didn't know what to say when he arrived at the Lan family's ancestor's room. Looking at Lan Lai's conflicted expression, the Lan family's ancestor couldn't help but ask curiously, "What's the matter?" "Great ancestor, Xue and the others are leaving Haotian continent." Lan Lai took a deep breath and said. He was ready to risk everything. "I've heard about it, Sai. In the future, Only the Lan family will be left on the Hautian continent. The Lan family's old ancestor said unhappily. They had been on equal footing with the Lung family and the Sun family for many years. Now that the Sun family no longer existed and the Lung family was leaving, they were the only ones left among the three great families. Even the Luo family, which had replaced the Sun family as one of the three superfamilies, was also leaving. From now on, the Hautian continent would probably be quiet for a while. Forefather, I also want to go to the divine realm. After hesitating for a moment, Lan Lai said with some embarrassment. He quickly lowered his head. Lai, the divine realm is not peaceful. Otherwise, why do you think Brother Leng Shaoqing and our Lan family's old ancestor came back from there? It's because it's not suitable for us to stay there for long. Unless you can find a backer, but it's not that easy to hug someone's thigh. The Lan clan's old ancestor sighed. As one of the Lan family's important figures, even though he had been in closed-door cultivation for many years, he knew much more about the divine world than the other members of the Lan family. He had also heard the Lan family's ancestor mention many things about the divine world. After hearing about it, he no longer had any yearning for the divine world. Otherwise, he would not have been suppressing his cultivation all this time. Thanks, we have a backer, Lan Lai said in a low voice. Are you talking about Lung Ruoxue? You don't even know how she's doing in the divine realm, so how can you be so sure that she can become our backer? The Lan family's old ancestor was a little speechless. Wasn't Lai too confident in Lung Ruoxue's abilities? Even though Lung Ruoxue was known as the god of slaughter in the Hautian continent, from what he knew, she had only been in the divinity for slightly more than 10 years. Hence, he could not believe that Lung Ruoxue would be able to make a name for herself in the divinity in such a short period of time. After all, the divine realm and the Hautian continent were different. Xue is such a genius. I believe that she must be doing well in the divine realm, enough to protect us. Lan Lai said confidently. He didn't know why he trusted Lung Ruoxue so much, but he just believed in her. However, after hearing Lan Lai's words, the Lan family's ancestor could not be at ease. Lai the divine realm is different from the Hautian continent. Many of us are like fish in water in the Hautian continent, but when we get to the divine realm, we still have to pretend to be weak. Unless you have good fortune, it's very difficult to gain a foothold in the divine realm. The Lan clan's old ancestor said earnestly. But Xue is in the divine realm. She said that she could bring the Lan family along with her. I believe her. The Lan family head lowered and mumbled. Although his voice was soft, the Lan family's old ancestor could still hear him clearly. Lai, what did you just say? You're saying that Lung Ruoxue is willing to bring us to the god world? The Lan clan's old ancestor asked in shock. Didn't I say that? Xue is willing to bring us along. Lan Lai said, a little embarrassed. She didn't say anything. I thought she only wanted to bring you along. The Lan family's ancestor was at his wits' end with Lan Lai's confusion. Ancestor, this is a good opportunity. Let's go. After Lan Lai explained, he didn't think too much about it. Instead, he grabbed the arm of the Lan family's ancestor and begged. This is not something we can decide. The Lan family's old ancestor patted Lan Lai's head and said helplessly, why can't you decide? As long as the old ancestor agrees, Grandpa won't dare to object. Lan Lai smirked. Your grandfather doesn't dare to object, but what about the other ancestors? The Lan clan's old ancestor was speechless. He thought to himself, this little fellow can't be thinking that as long as he's convinced me, the others won't be a threat, right? Old ancestor, let's not care about the others first. I'm only asking if you're willing. Lan Lai said as he pestered the Lan family's ancestor. You want to hear the truth? The Lan clan's old ancestor raised his brows and asked calmly. Yes. Lan Lai nodded. I don't want to. The Lan clan's old ancestor said bluntly. But, old grandmadam, could it be that because of your previous indecisiveness, you feel that you don't have the face to see Xue? Don't worry, for my sake Xue won't blame you. Lan Lai patted his chest and promised. You brat, what nonsense are you talking about? It was Lung Ruoxue who made me do it. the Lan clan's old ancestor said with an aggrieved expression. Infernal affairs? Lan Lai blinked a few times. No wonder the old ancestor suddenly went crazy. So that's what happened. Chapter 2657. To settle old scores. 2. I don't care about the inferno, I'm just following orders. The Lan clan's old ancestor said with a straight face. He was extremely displeased that this stinky brat had misunderstood him. This little fellow was truly heartless. He had doted on him for nothing. Old ancestor, I misunderstood you, don't be angry. Lan Lai saw that his ancestor was angry and quickly coaxed him. However, he immediately changed the topic and said, Ancestor, since we have worked well together before, we have to trust Shui this time. My instinct tells me that it is absolutely not wrong to follow Shui. Besides, uncle and his master are with Shui. Lan Ming is with Leng Ruoxue as well? Hearing this news, the Lan clan's old ancestor was a little surprised. Very quickly, he became a little angry. Stinky brat, he actually only remembered to tell him about this matter now. That's why I said that following Shui is definitely not a bad thing. Old ancestor, just agree. Lan Lai begged. Liar, it's not that I don't want to agree to your request. It's just that this matter is of great importance. It's not something that I can decide on my own. The Lan clan's old ancestor said helplessly. He had only just discovered today that this little fellow was so good at tormenting people. But Shui is still waiting for the news. Lan Lai said, feeling a little down. After that, he thought for a moment and asked, Old ancestor, what do we cultivate for? Wasn't it all for the sake of pursuing a higher and more powerful strength? However, on the Haotian continent, no matter how strong we are only dark supremes. No matter how high the status of the Lan family is on the Haotian continent, Sun Tao and his men were still defeated by him when they returned from the divine world. That's why I want to go to the divine world with Shui. I don't want to be a frog at the bottom of a well. The Lan family can't live on the Haotian continent forever. It's not good for cultivation. I hope to be able to follow Shui to the divine realm to broaden my horizons. I feel that that place should be the stage for our Lan family's development. Even if I have to start from scratch, I still want to go to the divine realm. After listening to Lan Lai's words, the ancestor of the Lan family was completely silent. In fact, how could he not know that what Lan Lai said was the truth? However, the cruelty of the divine world had made them lose the courage to go to the divine world to live. Now that they thought about it, they were actually not as thorough as a child. The Lan clan's old ancestor was a little embarrassed. Lai, even if I agree with your idea, I'm afraid it won't be an easy task to convince the other ancestors. The Lan family's old ancestor said to Lan Lai after thinking for a long time. It was undeniable that Lan Lai's words had aroused his ambition. He also wanted to go to the divinity to make a living, but the Lan family might not agree with such an idea. He knew that many people in the Lan family would not be willing to give up their current good life and go to the cruel and unknown world. For most people, unfamiliar places were not as reassuring as familiar places, but it was obviously impossible to stay in the Haotian continent for the rest of their lives to become a powerful figure. I don't care about the others, but does the ancestor agree? Lan Lai's eyes were fixed on the Lan family's old ancestor. The old ancestor's heart trembled. He knew that this child had made up his mind and hoped that he could make the same decision. As for him, he was a little tempted. I agree. The Lan clan's old ancestor nodded his head. Old ancestor, you have to trust my intuition. It's not wrong to follow Shui. Besides, there are so many of us here, so we can take care of each other. Seeing that the old ancestor had agreed, the Lan family was so happy that they were dancing with joy. Stinky brat, don't be happy too early. I'm not the only ancestor in the Lan family. The Lan family's old ancestor couldn't stand Lan Lai's smugness and couldn't help but remind him. Don't worry, he'll find a way to convince them. Lan Lai said with a smile. Actually, what he wanted to say was that he had convinced one of the most difficult ancestors to deal with. It would be much easier for others to take him down. Thanks after convincing one of the important figures in the Lan family, Lan Lai immediately went to look for Lung Ruoxue and asked her to give him some time. He had to go back and convince the rest of the Lan family. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement without even thinking. Since Luo Lin and the others had not returned from Luo City yet, and they could not leave Haotian continent immediately, it was no big deal to wait for the Lan family. Hearing this, Lan Lai immediately led his family's men back to the Lan family. He still had a tough battle to fight, so he had to go all out. After the Lan family left, the Lung family's main residence became quieter. Half a month later, Lan Lai sent back a message. The ancestors of the Lan family had agreed to move to the divinity. When she heard this news, the parasol tree that was sitting opposite Lung Ruoxue in the garden was very surprised. It could not help but ask, "I didn't expect that little Lan Lai to have such a plan. That guy is very smart." However, the Lan family's ancestors aren't stupid. Lung Ruoxue smiled. Now, the Lan family was also in a hurry to find a buyer for their territory. He believed that from now on, the Haotian continent would be reshuffled. Once the news that the Lan family was going to sell their territory spread, the entire Haotian continent was in an uproar. Many people did not understand what was going on with the Lan family. Why did he take it so hard? Where would they go if they sold their sphere of influence? However, a small number of people seemed to have caught a glimpse of the opportunity from the Lan family's sale of their territory and directly went to find the Lan family's ancestor. The Lan clan didn't have the time to carefully select a buyer like the Wanshan city and the Lung clan. Therefore, their request was for the one with the highest price to win. After all, they were going to the immortal realm, and there were many places where they needed money. During this period, the members of the Lung clan were also taking the time to pack up their things, bringing everything they could. When Luo Lin and the others returned, they saw the Lung family moving like ants, their things filling up the courtyard. "Wudi, what are you guys doing?" Luo Lin couldn't help but ask when he saw Lung Wudi, the chief commander of the moving house. "Pack up? There are too many things to bring. The storage ring can't fit them all," Lung Wudi said with a headache. There were too many people in the Lung family. They had collected a lot of junk over the years, but no one was willing to throw them away. He had no idea when the Lung family had become so thrifty. Actually, it wasn't that the Lung clan members were being thrifty. It was just that they didn't have much confidence in Lung Ruoxue. They were afraid that if Lung Ruoxue were to abandon them when they reached the divinity, who would they cry to then? Therefore, they didn't want to let go of anything that they could bring and was very useful. This was also the main reason why there were so many things. Of course, they could only keep these thoughts in their hearts and couldn't reveal them. Otherwise, they would definitely anger the goddess of death. Take your time and work hard. Although Luo Lin was a little speechless, this was the Lung family's matter, so it was better for him to stay out of it. With that thought in mind, he bade Lung Wudi goodbye and led his men to the snow garden. When they arrived at the snow garden, Luo Lin first reported the situation to Lung Ruoxue, then looked at her hesitantly. Chapter 2658, To Settle Old Scores, 3. Is there something? Lung Ruoxue looked at the other party's conflicted expression and asked with a faint smile. "Master, is the Lan clan also coming with us to the divine realm?" Luo Lin asked curiously. On the way back, they had all heard that the Lan family was selling their land, and immediately thought that it might be related to Master. As a matter of fact, he couldn't hold back his curiosity, and couldn't wait to ask as soon as he returned. "Yes, the Lan family will also come with us." Lung Ruoxue laughed. It's better to have more people, it's more lively," Luo Lin said happily after he confirmed it. These few years, his relationship with the Lung clan and the Lan clan had been pretty good. If he could still see these acquaintances when he arrived in the immortal realm, that would really be great. Luo Lin's thoughts were very simple, so Lung Ruoxue just smiled. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, she saw a small black head peeking out from the entrance of the garden. "Xiaoshan, why are you acting so sneaky? Come in." Lung Ruoxue called out helplessly. When Xiaoshan heard Lung Ruoxue calling for him, he walked over in embarrassment. Big Mountain followed behind him with his head lowered. Upon seeing this father and son pair, Lung Ruoxue frowned slightly. Ever since Sun Tao's matter was resolved, This father and son pair had rarely appeared in front of her. After some thought, Leng Ruoxue took the initiative to ask, Deshan, Xiaoshan, we're about to leave the Haotian continent. What are your plans? We don't know either. When Big Mountain heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he raised his head abruptly. He had not expected Senior Leng Ruoxue to care so much about him and his son. One must know that ever since they found out that Senior had returned from the God world, they had become even more respectful towards Leng Ruoxue. In fact, they did not even dare to appear in front of her as casually as before. If all of you wish to head to the divine realm, I can bring all of you along. Furthermore, I can guarantee that no one will bully you there. All of you just need to cultivate in peace. If you want to stay in the Haotian continent, I can arrange for you to live in the Green Dragon Mountain temporarily. That is the territory of my god brothers, and they need people to take care of them. Leng Ruoxue gave Deshan and his son 2 choices. She said this because she felt that this father and son were pure in nature and had helped her before, so she was naturally willing to take care of them. To her, this was just a matter of raising her hand. When the mountain father and son heard this, they were extremely excited. This was because no matter which of these 2 choices they made, they were both things that others could only wish for. However, they really didn't know which one to choose. Senior, we can't make a decision immediately. Can you give us a few days to consider? The mountain pleaded after some thought. Sure, just tell me your decision before we leave. Leng Ruoxue was very forgiving. The mountain father and son nodded and left the garden. A few days later, the Lan family came to the proud cold city in a grandiose manner to meet up with Leng Ruoxue and the others. Among the Lan family, Lan Lai was naturally the happiest. However, when some of the elders of the Lan family thought about how terrifying Leng Ruoxue was, they would turn pale. They did not dare to approach Leng Ruoxue. However, the Lan family's old ancestors had to express their gratitude to Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue exchanged pleasantries with them and told them to rest well. She would bring them out of the Haotian continent in 2 days. At the same time, the mountain father and son had decided to head to the divinity with Leng Ruoxue and the others. Although the father and son were definitely burdens, they had become good friends with many people from the Luo family and Wanshan city over the past few days. Xiao Shan had even had many playmates. Therefore, the moment they thought of being separated from these people, the father and son felt terrible. In addition, the head butler of Wanshan city had been instigating the father and son from the side. After a few rounds, they were also persuaded. After all, the father and son had deeply experienced the warmth of a family here. After knowing the decision of Big Mountain and his son, the head butler of Wanshan city was the happiest. Who asked him to like the father and son? In addition, when he had misunderstood Big Mountain as a woman, he had arranged a lot of family affairs for Big Mountain, which made him feel a little guilty. Therefore, he naturally hoped that Big Mountain and his son could leave with them. After all, following his master was definitely much better than the 2 of them running around like headless flies. 2 days later, Leng Ruoxue moved everyone into her personal room. The people who entered the house were like Granny Lu who had entered the Grand View Garden, their curiosity rapidly growing. However, Leng Ruoxue didn't have the time to explain anything to them. After settling everyone down, she teleported to a barren mountain and took out a small, snow-white, round ball. That small ball was shaped like a pearl and was snow-white and clear. However, in reality, this small ball had nothing to do with a pearl at all. It was a one-time use teleportation ball. When she first arrived at the teleportation array in Haotian continent, the person guarding the teleportation array gave her this little thing after she paid 1 million top-grade crystals. He also told her not to lose it, or she would not be able to teleport back. Now, it was time to use this little ball. After she crushed the teleportation sphere, a teleportation formation appeared not far from Leng Ruoxue's feet. The moment Leng Ruoxue stepped into the circle of light, the teleportation formation disappeared. With a slight wave of dizziness, Leng Ruoxue was teleported out of the teleportation array. Thanks, you're back so quickly. Suddenly, a surprised voice rang in Leng Ruoxue's ears. She looked up and saw that the person who spoke was the one who had guarded the teleportation array. Nodding her head slightly, Lung Ruoxue scanned her surroundings again. When she realized that she had returned to the 5 alliances, she frowned and was about to bid her farewell and leave. Just then, another angry voice rang out, "You bastard! You're finally back. It wasn't in vain for this lord to wait here for rabbits." Wait for a rabbit? Did that mean she had become a rabbit? Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes glanced at the other party as she said indifferently, "Is there something you need?" If she remembered correctly, this man was the second-generation young master who had blocked their way and was scratched by a treasure on the day they were about to return to the Haotian continent. He really didn't expect that this guy would actually dare to appear in front of him. Did he really think that he was a soft persimmon? Of course. I'm going to settle old scores with you. The young master laughed evilly. What old scores? Lung Ruoxue played dumb. Your little beastie scratched me. You have to give me an explanation. The young master said the line that he had been thinking about for a long time. Didn't I give you a healing pill? What else do you want? Lung Ruoxue said calmly, her expression unhurried. However, Ling Xiaoqing and Ling Xiaoxiao, who were in the mobile house, were a little anxious when they saw this. These people who wanted to find trouble with Shuer looked like they had power and backing, and she didn't know if Shuer could deal with them. How is it? Of course, it's to compensate for my emotional damage. The young master said matter-of-factly. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but smile. She had always been the one asking others for compensation for their mental damage. She didn't think that someone would actually ask for her compensation today. Her smile was like 100 flowers blooming, captivating people's hearts and souls, and instantly mesmerized the second-generation ancestor. Beautiful! It's so beautiful! The young master couldn't help muttering and was dumbfounded. Emotional damages, no. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. No? Then compensate me with your people. The young master, who had finally regained his senses, immediately shouted. Of course, this was also his original plan. In short, he must get the beauty in front of him. This way, he would not have missed her for so many days in vain. My people? You can't afford it. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly, her smile was extremely flirtatious. In an instant, the young master was captivated again. At this moment, the 5 little beasts who were in the house with Lung Xiaoqing and the others were all furious. Baby clenched his little fists and roared, "Cute master, let me go out and teach him a good lesson. You bastard! You're really tired of living, daring to have ideas about cute master." Baby was very angry, and the consequences were quite serious. Lung Xiaoqing and the others who were in their personal rooms could not help but distance themselves from the aura of the treasure. At the same time, they thought to themselves, this little fellow is not to be trifled with. It was strange. When they were in Haotian continent, although they had guessed that these little guys were not simple, they had never seen the 5 little beasts so angry. But now, when they saw their master being teased by bad guys, they were really angry. Moreover, for some reason, they, who should be worried about Lung Ruoxue, could not help but mourn for that young master who did not know better. He could only be considered unlucky to have provoked Shuer, right? Lung Ruoxue could feel the beasts in her house flying into a rage, but she did not release them. Instead, she spoke to the young master in front of her in a calm and collected manner. I'll give you a chance to get lost, or you'll have to bear the consequences. You're asking me to get lost? Beauty, I didn't hear wrong, right? You're alone and we have so many people. What right do you have to tell me to get lost? By the way, you still have a few little beasts. Where are those little bastards? Why didn't he come out to help you? The young master looked at the guard behind him and smiled proudly. Lung Ruoxue saw that the other party wasn't going to listen to anything and didn't bother to waste any more time. She immediately took out the cold shadow and held it in her hand. The cold shadow emitted a terrifying cold light, causing the hearts of the young master and his men to tremble. However, they had the advantage in numbers and this was their territory, so they were only afraid for a moment before they became fearless again. Oh, a hot beauty, I like her. The young master continued to tease. This time, Lung Ruoxue didn't say a word. With a slight wave of her wrist, the cold shadow released several rays of cold light. In an instant, The young master and his guards fell to the ground and let out a series of miserable screams. A bunch of trash. Lung Ruoxue looked disdainfully at the people lying on the ground. She had not hit them hard, but these people were screaming in agony. They were simply too useless. After a moment of disdain, Lung Ruoxue turned around and walked away as if nothing had happened. Chapter 2659. Lung Ruoxue's Rage 1. He watched Lung Ruoxue's back view and then looked at the person lying on the ground. The person guarding the teleportation array shook his head helplessly. Then, he pretended that he had not seen anything and found a place to close his eyes and rest. As for Lung Ruoxue, she was surrounded by a group of fierce-looking guards before she could even walk out of the Five Alliances territory. They even wanted to bring her to see their alliance master. The moment she heard the word alliance master, Lung Ruoxue did not resist. Instead, she cooperated and left with the guards. When Lung Xiaoqing and the others in the house saw this, they started to worry again. Someone was confused and asked curiously, "Senior Lung, who is the alliance master that those people are talking about?" In this place, only the Ascender Alliance is called the alliance leader. I just don't know which alliance this is. Lung Xiaoqing asked worriedly. Even though he had only been on the godly mainland for a short time, he had already familiarized himself with the various major factions here. The Ascender Alliance? Are you saying that the people here are the same as us? They all ascended? The person who spoke couldn't help but ask. Yes. The Ascender Alliance's members are all Ascenders. Lung Xiaoqing sighed softly. Then, don't we have found the organization? One of the Lan family members said excitedly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he was smacked on the head. The one who had hit him was the Lan clan's great ancestor. His status was similar to Lung Xiaoqing's. Therefore, even though he was hit, the Lan clan's member did not dare to have any objections. He only looked at his great ancestor with an aggrieved expression. He didn't understand why he was beaten up just because he said one sentence. At this moment, the Lan clan's most senior elder exchanged a glance with Lung Xiaoqing before he said helplessly, "The Ascender Alliance is not a good place. You should not yearn for this place." When everyone heard this, they were all a little dumbfounded. In the end, Lung Xiaoqing explained the situation of the Ascender Alliance to them so that some of the young fellows would not think that this was a good place. Everyone who didn't understand the situation on the godly continent widened their eyes and mouths in disbelief. How did this happen? However, the old ancestor would definitely not lie. Old ancestor, will Xue be in danger if she faces them alone? Suddenly, Lan Lai cried out in alarm. His handsome face was still filled with worry. As soon as he said this, many people looked worriedly at the few people with the highest seniority. One should know that Lung Ruoxue was their biggest backer here. If something happened to Lung Ruoxue, what would they do? Lung Xiaoqing and Lung Xiaoxiao were also very worried about Xue's safety. Putting aside Xue's strength, it would be strange if a stunning beauty like her was not coveted by others when she was walking on the streets. Furthermore, there were many powerful players here. Their strength was nothing on the godly mainland. Furthermore, Xue was not willing to let them out, so they could not help even if they wanted to. The two of them were very worried about this situation. They couldn't help but turn their eyes to the violent little beasts, but they received a disdainful look from Baby. Then, they heard Baby say with a proud face, "How could my cute master be in danger? Whoever offends the cute master will be in trouble." These words caused everyone to fall silent for a long time. Some of them couldn't help but think to themselves, then who was the one who saw someone taking liberties with Lung Ruoxue and was so anxious that he wanted to escape? Of course, these words could never be said. Lung Ruoxue, who had been taken away outside, was well aware of the commotion in her house. She sent a voice transmission to the crowd, telling them not to worry. Very quickly, she was brought to the front of a residence. Thanks, Lung Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes. From the outside, the house looked very simple and unadorned. It was not luxurious. On the plaque in the middle of the gate, 2 big gold-stamped words were written, 5 Alliances. When she saw these 2 words, Lung Ruoxue laughed in her heart. It's indeed the 5 Alliances. I wonder why the alliance masters of the 5 alliances had sent people to capture me? Then, she followed the guard into the alliance of 5. The interior of the 5 alliances' residence was even more desolate than it looked on the outside, but the courtyard was rather clean. After she was brought into the living room, Lung Ruoxue sat down before the 5 alliance guards could say anything. After leaving 2 guards to watch over her, the other guards left. Lung Ruoxue, who was sitting down, took out a teapot, a teacup, and some snacks from her bangle. She slowly savored them and then asked, "Why did your alliance master invite me here?" Looking at her smooth and natural movements, the 2 guards who were left behind twitched their mouths. This person was too. Was she treating the 5 alliances as her own home? However, in front of a beauty like Lung Ruoxue, they were too embarrassed to say some harsh words. After taking a deep breath, one of the guards replied, "You've injured the young master of the alliance master." "Alliance master, you want to take revenge on me?" Lung Ruoxue did not wait for the guard to finish his sentence and interrupted. The guard didn't say anything. In fact, they didn't know how the alliance master would treat this beauty. However, they admired her courage because she didn't seem afraid at all. "Since you want to take revenge on me, then quickly ask your alliance master to take action. By the way, send someone to hurry me up. My time is very precious." Lung Ruoxue was minding her own business. She did not care about how the 2 guards would react after hearing her words and directly spoke her thoughts. When the 2 guards heard Lung Ruoxue's words, black lines appeared on their foreheads. They thought to themselves, "Is this person tired of living? Who would urge others to rush to their deaths?" The 2 of them could not understand. "Little girl, you're really bold." At this moment, a rather angry voice rang out from outside. Soon after, a middle-aged man strode in from outside. When the 2 guards saw that the alliance master had arrived, they hurriedly bowed. However, Lung Ruoxue sat as steady as a mountain and continued to drink her tea. Seeing this, the alliance masters of the 5 alliances prepared to give Lung Ruoxue a taste of her power. Who knew that when he raised his head to look at Lung Ruoxue, he was suddenly stunned and his heart started to beat wildly. This person looks familiar? Why did she look so much like a certain fearsome female demon? Have we met somewhere before? The leaders of the 5 alliances asked carefully, afraid that they might have mistaken him for someone else. "We've never met." Lung Ruoxue said indifferently as she took a sip of tea. "What's your name?" The leaders of the 5 alliances asked. "Cold." Lung Ruoxue's words were concise. "What's cold?" The 5 leaders continued to ask, feeling a little angry at the same time. Couldn't this brat just finish her words in one go? This was really making people anxious. Lung Ruoxue. When she said these 3 words, Lung Ruoxue suddenly smiled and looked at the alliance master of the 5 alliances. When the alliance master of the 5 alliances heard the nightmarish name in his memory and saw her glance at him, he was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. In the end, he couldn't support himself anymore and knelt down. Chapter 2660. Lung Ruoxue's Rage, 2. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she looked at the alliance masters of the 5 alliances in confusion and asked, "Why are the 5 alliance masters bowing so heavily?" I failed to recognize Mount Tai. I hope Senior won't blame me." The alliance masters of the 5 alliances were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They went with the flow and knelt in front of Lung Ruoxue. When the 2 guards at the side saw this scene, they were both dumbfounded. What was wrong with the alliance master? Why did he have to kneel down in front of this little girl and call her Senior? They couldn't figure it out, nor were they clear about Lung Ruoxue's identity. Hence, their faces were filled with bewilderment. At this moment, the alliance masters of the 5 alliances weren't in the mood to explain to them. They were only depressed that they had actually managed to capture Lung Ruoxue. This was really unlucky. The alliance masters of the 5 alliances truly felt that they were unlucky. When did this goddess of slaughter come to the 5 leagues and even let him run into her? "I'm not a senior." Lung Ruoxue laughed after listening to the 5 league masters. "In my heart, you are my senior." The leaders of the 5 alliances emphasized. "All right, Since you've said so, it'll be impolite to refuse. However, I heard that you're here to take revenge, so let's not waste time and just attack. Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. My ancestors. How could he dare to attack this ancestor? The General Union had already made an announcement, telling them to avoid Leng Ruoxue and not to get into a conflict with this she-devil, so he didn't dare to mention anything about revenge. He could only blame his son for being unlucky. Fortunately, his son's injuries were not serious, otherwise he would have been depressed to death. But now, the little ancestor in front of him was enough to make him depressed. Senior, it's a misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. The depressed leader of the 5 alliances smiled and said, Is it really a misunderstanding? Leng Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and asked with uncertainty. It must be. The leaders of the 5 alliances said with determination. All right then. They'll just take it as a misunderstanding. By the way, was the one-eye injured at the teleportation formation your son? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. Yes. The alliance masters of the 5 alliances nodded with a constipated expression. He was teasing me. Leng Ruoxue only said these 4 words and didn't say anything else. The alliance masters of the 5 alliances broke out in cold sweat after hearing what Leng Ruoxue said. He could not understand what she meant. Was she asking for compensation or was she trying to take revenge on his son? To be honest, he didn't want to agree to either of them. But looking at the situation, it was not something he could control. If Leng Ruoxue were to fly into a rage out of humiliation, the 5 alliances would be in deep trouble. Senior, you're thinking of, the alliance master of the 5 alliances probed. Your son even asked me to compensate for his emotional damage. Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly. He didn't dare. He didn't dare. It'll definitely teach that stinky brat a good lesson later. The leaders of the 5 alliances quickly expressed their opinions. Then what do you think of the things he did to me? Leng Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked innocently. If Senior has any requests, you can just say it. As long as you spare my family's stinky brat's life, I only have this one brat. Senior can't bear to let me see my white-haired one see my black-haired one off, right? The alliance masters of the 5 alliances played the emotional card, hoping that Leng Ruoxue would pity him. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes began to size up the 5 alliance masters. Thanks, a white-haired man sending off a black-haired man? Did it have to be so exaggerated? This alliance master of the 5 alliances looked to be in his early 40s, and he felt that he was old? Leng Ruoxue felt a little disdainful. She didn't want to continue scaring the alliance masters of the 5 alliances, so she said directly, It's the father's fault for not teaching the child. Your son's character is bad, and he flirts with women from good families. You, as his father, can't escape the blame. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the alliance master's heart sank. Did she not want to let her son off? Not only that, but he also wanted to implicate the 5 alliances? The alliance masters of the 5 alliances started to let their thoughts run wild. After Leng Ruoxue deliberately paused for a moment, she changed the topic and said, However, seeing how much you love your son, I can let your son go, but you have to help me do something. What is it? As long as it's not a betrayal of the Ascender Alliance, Senior, you can speak freely. Hearing Leng Ruoxue say that she wouldn't pursue the matter with her son, the alliance masters of the 5 alliances immediately resurrected on the spot as if they had been injected with chicken blood, and said with a fawning expression, Don't worry. I won't ask you to betray the Ascender Alliance. Leng Ruoxue had not expected this fellow to be so loyal to the Ascender Alliance, so she replied honestly. Then please give me your orders, Senior. The alliance masters of the 5 alliances were completely relieved. Help me find a few people. Leng Ruoxue replied without even thinking. Senior, who are you looking for? The alliance masters of the 5 alliances did not expect that it would be so easy to find someone. However, he had a feeling that the person Leng Ruoxue was looking for was not that simple. Could it be that he was looking for his enemy? It's my subordinates and my brother. After Lang Ruoxue finished speaking, she passed the names and portraits of Luo Xian and the others to the alliance masters of the 5 alliances. Senior, leave this matter to me. The alliance masters of the 5 alliances took the information that Lang Ruoxue handed over and gave their guarantee after a quick glance. In his opinion, finding someone was the simplest thing. Then he'll thank the alliance masters of the 5 alliances first. If you have any news, send me a voice transmission. Lang Ruoxue said very politely. All right. The alliance masters quickly agreed and respectfully sent Lang Ruoxue off. Only then did he let out a long sigh of relief. He then realized that his clothes had long since been drenched in cold sweat. The pressure that she-devil gave off was too great. Recalling what Lang Ruoxue had instructed him to do, the alliance master of the 5 alliances did not dare to delay and quickly ordered his subordinates to search for her. Lang Ruoxue, on the other hand, was escorted out of the alliance's territory by the guards sent by the alliance masters. It was only after they had left the Ascender Alliance's territory that Lang Ruoxue moved Leng Xiaoqing and the others out. In Leng Ruoxue's words, she wanted them to experience the air and life here. However, Leng Xiaoqing and the rest who came out looked at Lang Ruoxue with complicated expressions and did not say a word. What's wrong? Lang Ruoxue could not understand. My lovely master, they've suffered a huge blow. Baby said with a look of understanding. At first, these people were worried that their cute master would be bullied. However, not only was their master unharmed, but he could even order the 5 alliance masters to do things for them. None of them had expected their master to have such a high status in the divine mainland. They were ashamed and frightened. Calm down. Lang Ruoxue only said these 2 words before giving you a look. You instantly transformed back into her original form and waited for her master to sit on it. After Lang Ruoxue sat on Yes back, she looked at the people who were still unmoving and said helplessly, "Are you guys planning to stay here?" Hearing this, everyone immediately reacted and sat on Feather's back. "Master, are we going to Yanbei City?" You asked. When he saw Lang Ruoxue nod her head, he then flew in the direction of northern Yen City. When they arrived at the entrance of Yanbei City, the Feather landed. The city guard recognized Lang Ruoxue. The moment he saw her, he hurriedly jogged over and said respectfully, "Master, you're here. I'll send someone to inform the city lord." Chapter 2661, Lang Ruoxue's Rage 3. No, we can go in by ourselves. Lang Ruoxue smiled. The guard nodded and welcomed Lang Ruoxue and her group into the city. At this moment, Leng Xiaoqing and the others were dumbfounded. If the city guards addressed Lang Ruoxue as master, then what about the city lord? Even though they had been city lords in the Haotian continent, this place was different from the Haotian continent. Lang Ruoxue had only been here for a few years, and she already owned a city like this. They really had no idea how she had managed to survive. For a moment, Leng Xiaoqing, Leng Xiaoxiao, and the Lan family's old ancestor all felt inferior. They were both ascendants, but why was the difference so great? As expected, when they arrived at the city lord's mansion, Yen Kun called Lang Ruoxue master with a face full of excitement. This confirmed their guess. Now, they were obviously much calmer than when they were in the Ascender's 5 alliances. "Yen Kun, how are you?" Lang Ruoxue asked with concern after she was led to the main seat in the living room. "I'm still all right." Yen Kun's face was filled with joy. His master's status in the divine world was so high that he didn't even put the divine masters in his eyes. Who would dare to show him any attitude? Hence, he was like a fish in water on the godly mainland. Hearing Yen Kun's words, Lang Ruoxue was relieved. Then she introduced Yen Kun to her subordinates, the Leng family and the Lan family. After some small talk, Yen Kun naturally had to treat them well. At this time, Yen Kun also knew that his master was going to bring these people to the divinity. He couldn't help but feel envious. Lang Ruoxue didn't bring him along when she saw his reaction. She only told him to let her know whenever he was no longer willing to stay in the divine mainland. Yen Kun was overjoyed to hear this, but he couldn't leave the godly land without him, so he couldn't get there for a while. Furthermore, Yen Kuan also knew that Leng Ruoxue had a few subordinates who had come to the godly mainland by themselves. He had also expressed that he would find them as soon as possible to avoid any danger. Leng Ruoxue was confident in Yen Kun's ability. The day after the Yen clan's welcoming banquet ended, Leng Xiaoqing, Leng Xiaoxiao, and the Lan clan's eldest ancestor came to look for Leng Ruoxue. However, after seeing Leng Ruoxue, they were at a loss as to what to say. In the end, it was still the mother parasol tree who could not stand it and reproached, "If you have something to say, then say it. You don't look like a man when you're hemming and hawing." After being criticized by the mother parasol tree, Leng Xiaoqing went all out and asked directly, "Shui, aren't we living in the godly mainland?" "No." Leng Ruoxue smiled. She already knew what they wanted to ask. "Do I really have to go to that divine realm?" Leng Xiaoqing exclaimed in shock. Previously, they had already learned about this from Leng Ruoxue and Yen Kun's conversation. However, the two of them had not explained it clearly at that time. Otherwise, they would not have decided to ask about it in person after thinking for a long time. Yes, grandfather and the cheapskate old ancestor are all in the divine realm. This is only a branch of mine. Leng Ruoxue replied honestly. Upon hearing this, the three people who came to clarify the matter were so depressed that they felt ashamed. One should know that they had arrived at the divine mainland much earlier than that last Leng Ruoxue. However, she had already gone to the divine world to develop her career. They didn't dare to set foot on the divine mainland so easily. Woo, what a difference! It was really not just a little bit worse. The three old men who had lived for a long time were so sad that they did not know what to say. Before they left, Leng Xiaoqing could not help but ask Leng Ruoxue about her abilities. When Leng Ruoxue told them that she was now a divine sovereign, the three of them were petrified. When they finally came back to their senses, the three of them left stiffly. The mother parasol tree looked at the back of the three mechanical figures and felt a little sympathy for them. Moreover, she could also imagine that Shui Er's strength would definitely not be a light blow to these three people. "Shui, you really are a monster." The mother parasol tree sighed. "Senior, I still haven't told them about your strength." Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. "Shui, let's keep a low profile." The mother parasol tree said helplessly. "All right, keep a low profile." Leng Ruoxue laughed and teased. For the next few days, Leng Xiaoqing and the other two, who had found out about Leng Ruoxue's strength, locked themselves in their rooms and reflected on themselves. They felt that they had been living a really sullen life. Furthermore, the longer they lived, the less they had the drive to advance. They were always afraid of wolves in front and tigers behind. As a result, until today, their strength had not improved much. Thanks, it was undeniable that Leng Ruoxue had given them quite a shock. Not to mention the other party's vast territory, just the strength of that little girl was far beyond theirs. This wave behind didn't push forward the wave in front, but directly smacked the wave in front firmly. Towards Leng Ruoxue now, they really didn't have any temper at all. After thinking for a few days, the three of them felt that they could not go on like this. Otherwise, their Leng family and Lan family would disappear from the divinity sooner or later. After thinking it through, the three of them came to look for Leng Ruoxue, hoping that she would allow them to enter closed-door cultivation in her house. That place was filled with spiritual energy. It was definitely a holy land for cultivation. Leng Ruoxue agreed. He then moved them into his house. Who knew that when they heard that their ancestor was in seclusion, many people from the Lan and Leng families also requested to go into seclusion. Because they had been with the people from the city lord's residence for the past few days, they had more or less heard about Leng Ruoxue's past and had been deeply affected. Leng Ruoxue naturally wouldn't stop them if they wanted to improve themselves. She happily agreed to their request. The moment they went into closed-door cultivation, the originally bustling city lord's residence instantly became quiet. However, at this moment, Leng Ruoxue had also received a voice transmission from the Ascender Alliance's leaders. Together with the mother parasol tree, they rushed over to the 5 alliances. Seeing Leng Ruoxue again, the alliance masters of the 5 alliances still felt immense pressure, especially now that there was a beautiful woman with unfathomable strength by her side. The alliance masters of the 5 alliances felt that they could not even breathe smoothly. So, why are women so powerful these days? Each and every one of them was stronger than a man. How could a man live? The alliance masters of the 5 alliances looked at Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree with sorrow and resentment. They wished they could hide in a corner and draw circles. This was too much of a blow to them, wasn't it? Lung Ruoxue couldn't stand the other party's sudden coyness. She said impatiently, "Didn't you say there's news? Where are they?" Hearing this, the leader of the 5 alliances immediately became alert and said carefully, "Senior, after I tell you their whereabouts, you must hold back and not be angry." The alliance masters of the 5 alliances were afraid that Lung Ruoxue would smash the 5 alliances into pieces in a fit of anger. After all, he was definitely innocent. He didn't want to bear Lung Ruoxue's anger for someone else. "Speak!" Lung Ruoxue's lion-like roar scared the alliance masters of the 5 alliances so much that they were trembling. Immediately after, the alliance masters of the 5 alliances handed Lung Ruoxue a few pieces of paper. On them were the whereabouts of Luo Xian and the others. Lung Ruoxue took a look at it and her face turned black. How detestable! Luo Xian and the others were indeed in the Ascender Alliance. In the past, the reason why she had asked the 5 alliances masters to help her find people was that she felt that the chances of Luo Xian and the others coming to the Ascender Alliance were very high. After all, everyone was an Ascender, and they would naturally have a good impression of such an organization. But now, they were sending sheep into the tiger's mouth. 3 alliances. For alliances, Luo Xian and the others were in these 2 alliances. Not only did they have a difficult life, but they were also forced to become slaves. This was something that Lung Ruoxue could not tolerate. If you dare to touch her subordinates, you must be prepared to pay the price. Lung Ruoxue was furious. The consequences would be dire. When the alliance masters of the 5 alliances saw Lung Ruoxue's expression turn ugly, they were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe. However, they could understand Lung Ruoxue's feelings. If it was anyone else who knew that their subordinates were living a life worse than a pig or a dog, who wouldn't be angry? One must know that when he first saw the information that his subordinate had sent back, he was already a little angry, let alone Lung Ruoxue, who was directly involved. So, he truly felt that he was too kind compared to the people from the 3rd and 4th alliances. At the very least, he had never done anything that caused others to detest him. At the same time, he was glad that he had not offended Lung Ruoxue because of his son. Otherwise, his ending would not be any better than the 2 alliances. After some thought, the leader of the 5 alliances couldn't help but ask, "Senior, what do you plan to do?" Lung Ruoxue's face was cold and she did not say anything. At this moment, the parasol tree took the paper from Lung Ruoxue's hands and read through it quickly. Then it said furiously, "Shuer, what are we waiting for? Let's just kill our way into the 3rd and 4th alliances. To dare to bully our people like this, you must be tired of living." In an instant, the mother parasol tree transformed from an elegant woman into a fire-breathing Tyrannosaurus. Shue'er's people were her people. Bullying Shue'er's subordinates was the same as bullying her. Therefore, the parasol tree mother tree naturally felt the same and was determined not to let the people from the 2 alliances off. As the most ancient plant ancestor in the divinity, the mother parasol tree had a mild temper most of the time. However, as one of the few godly venerable rank plants in the divinity, she was rather arrogant and protective. Her violent nature was hidden deep in her blood. However, this time, seeing Shue'er's subordinates suffer such a fate, it had completely ignited her anger. Although this kind of thing wasn't uncommon in the divine realm, she wouldn't meddle in other people's business if it didn't involve her. But wasn't this related to her? So how could she bear it? Seeing that Lung Ruoxue didn't have much of a reaction and the woman beside her was the first to fly into a rage, the alliance master of the 5 alliances was so frightened that he hurriedly said, "Senior, I don't dare to meddle in your affairs, but can you not sell me out?" Sob. If the Ascender Alliance knew that he was the one who had revealed the news to Lung Ruoxue, he would be isolated. He was so scared. "Don't worry, you won't be involved in this." The mother parasol tree rolled its eyes at the cowardly leader of the 5 alliances and said, "The alliance masters of the 5 alliances were relieved. Senior, let's go to the 3rd and 4th alliances." At this moment, Leng Ruoxue finally spoke. Chapter 2662, Leng Ruoxue's Ever-Changing Face 1. "All right," he said. The mother parasol tree responded. She could tell that Shuer was in a bad mood. Even though she did not turn into a shrew and curse like her, the mother parasol tree understood her well. It knew that the calmer she was, the more serious the matter was. This should be called the calm before the storm. "Senior, do you need me to send someone to bring you to the 3rd and 4th alliances?" At this time, the 5 leaders asked again. Don't blame him for not being loyal to the alliance. It was truly better for a fellow Taoist to die than for me. If I didn't stand on Leng Ruoxue's side, she might even destroy the 5 alliances in a fit of anger. Who would he cry to then? Furthermore, it was common knowledge that the 5 alliances in the Ascender Alliance were at odds with each other. There was no need for him to offend Leng Ruoxue for the sake of his 2 opponents. This ancestor could not be offended. This matter became clearer after he reported it to the alliance masters of the 5 alliances in the divinity and received a reply. "Thank you then." Leng Ruoxue didn't reject the other party's flattery. In any case, she had to go to the 3rd and 4th alliances. Having someone to lead the way would save her a lot of trouble. One had to know that other than the 1st, 2nd, and 5th alliances, only the 3rd and 4th alliances were ones she had not been to. Now that she thought about it, she had actually come into contact with all 5 alliances in the Ascender Alliance. She did not know if she was lucky or if the Ascender Alliance was unlucky. Naturally, the leaders of the 5 alliances didn't dare to accept the other party's thanks. Very quickly, he found his trusted aide and explained the situation to him. Then he watched as Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree left. He sent off these 2 terrifying women. After the 2 of them left, the leader of the 5 alliances realized that he had broken out in a cold sweat again. Those 2 women were too scary, weren't they? As for the confidant of the leader of the 5 alliances, after bringing Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree to the 3 alliances, he wanted to return. He knew that the 2 of them were going to the 3 alliances and the 4 alliances to cause a scene and was afraid that they would see that he had brought the 2 of them here. Hence, he could not wait to leave before the 3 alliances and the 4 alliances noticed him. However, without Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree's orders, he did not dare to take a single step. "Senior, this is the 3rd alliance. The 4th and 3rd alliances are right next to each other, very close." The confidant of the 5 alliance masters wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said carefully. The implication was obvious. They had arrived at their destination. Could he go back now? "Oh, bring me to the 3 alliances' base." Leng Ruoxue acted as if she didn't see the desire to leave in the other party's eyes as she directly gave her instructions. When the confidants of the 5 alliance masters heard this, they wanted to kneel down in front of Leng Ruoxue. So, this way they would be discovered. At that time, the 5 alliances would be targeted by the 3rd and 4th alliances. He really didn't want to go. However, how could Leng Ruoxue be so easily dismissed? She coldly glanced at the other party and said, "If you don't, what if I accidentally let it slip and say that you brought us to the 3rd and 4th leagues to cause trouble? You know the consequences." Was she that easy to make use of? Leng Ruoxue sneered in her heart. Don't think that she didn't know the intense competition between the 5 alliances in the Ascender Alliance. If they wanted to use her as a weapon, how could they not pay the price? The confidants of the alliance masters of the 5 alliances wanted to kneel down in front of Leng Ruoxue immediately. Would they only be satisfied if they dragged the 5 alliances into the water? A certain trusted aide was very worried, but he could not do anything about Leng Ruoxue, this ancestor. He could only brace himself and continue to lead the way. The mother parasol tree chuckled at the back as it watched a certain trusted aide walk in front as if a loved one had died. This time, the Ascender Alliance was going to be lively. The excitement she was talking about was not referring to her and Shuer going to cause a scene, but rather that the few alliances in the divine realm would not be at peace. The 5 league masters wanted to use them to deal with the 3rd and 4th league. Did they really think they were fools? However, she did believe that the leaders of the 5 alliances would not dare to lie to them about the whereabouts of Shui Er's subordinates, because if they did, the 5 alliances would end up in a terrible state. Thanks. After walking for a while, they finally arrived at the 3 alliances' encampment. One of his trusted aides pointed at Leng Ruoxue and said, "Senior, we've arrived." After saying that, he immediately hid far away to avoid being discovered. However, Leng Ruoxue wouldn't let him off so easily. She beckoned him over with her finger. A certain trusted aide didn't dare to disobey and could only brace himself as he walked over unwillingly. "Senior, is there anything else?" The confidant wanted to cry but had no tears. Why was the errand he had taken on so terrifying? This was the rhythm of wanting him to die. "Use your status as a member of the 5 major guilds and bring us in." Leng Ruoxue smiled. "Senior, this will let them discover my identity." A certain trusted aide reminded them, thinking, "Didn't you guys promise the Alliance Master that you wouldn't betray him? Then what was going on now?" "Don't worry, they're already dead. Dead people can't speak." The mother parasol tree patted the shoulder of a certain trusted aide and consoled him. When a certain confidant heard this, he had a mixed feeling in his heart. This meant that he had to go in. So, why was his life so bitter? "Don't talk nonsense, just hurry up. Our time is precious." Leng Ruoxue saw that her confidant was hesitating and was not decisive at all, so she asked impatiently. No matter how slow the confidant was, he could tell that this ancestor was about to get angry. He didn't dare to waste any more time, so he took out a sign and walked to the gate of the 3 alliances, showing it to the guard. The guard took a look but did not let them in immediately. Instead, he asked, "Why are the 5 leagues here at the 3 leagues? What's the matter?" After he finished speaking, his eyes were still sizing up Leng Ruoxue and the parasol tree. He thought to himself, "These 2 are good stuff. The Alliance Masters of the 5 alliances asked me to give the Alliance Masters of the 3 alliances a gift." A certain trusted aide said with a smile. Then he threw a knowing look at the guard. After that, the guard smiled with a tacit understanding. The gaze that he cast on Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree became even more unbridled. "These 2 gifts are not bad. The Alliance Master will definitely like them." After a long time, the guard at the door said with a smirk. Moreover, he didn't doubt the authenticity of his confidant's words. After all, in his heart, he felt that it was only natural for the 5 alliances to want to curry favor with their 3 alliances' masters. After all, the 5 alliances had the lowest status and strength in the Ascender Alliance. "That's good." A certain trusted aide put on a relieved expression and looked at Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree uneasily. He hoped that these 2 ancestors would not be angry because of his words. That was just a temporary solution. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue and the parasol tree finally realized that they were the gifts that the trusted aide was referring to. They furrowed their brows slightly and caught a glimpse of the smile on the trusted aide's face. The 2 of them understood and smiled in cooperation. Seeing this, the confidant's heart that had been in his throat was finally at ease. When the guards saw the beautiful smiles on the 2 women's faces, they immediately froze on the spot. Beautiful! It was so beautiful! Without further hesitation, the guard excitedly invited the 3 of them into the 3 alliances after coming back to his senses. Then he happily went to inform the Alliance Masters of the 3 alliances. Chapter 2663, Leng Ruoxue's Ever-Changing Face, 2. Leng Ruoxue and the other 2 sat in the 3 alliances' living room, as steady as a mountain. Seeing that the Alliance Masters of the 3 alliances hadn't arrived yet, one of his confidants dared to explain in a low voice, "Seniors, the leader of the 3 alliances is very cunning and ruthless. However, he is very friendly to women, especially beautiful women. So, please bear with it for the time being." It was fine to feel aggrieved, but Leng Ruoxue suddenly thought of an important question. "Will the Alliance Masters of the 3 alliances recognize me?" Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but ask. If the alliance masters of the 5 alliances could recognize her, then the alliance masters of the 3 alliances would probably recognize her as well, right? At that time, his identity would be exposed before he could save Luo Xian and the others. Don't worry. As long as you don't admit it, the alliance masters of the 3 alliances won't think that you're Lung Ruoxue, a certain trusted aide hurriedly replied. Lung Ruoxue is in the god world. Who would believe that he had come to the godly mainland? So even if they recognized Lung Ruoxue, as long as she didn't admit to it, the other party would only think that the woman in front of them looked like Lung Ruoxue. Alright. She understood what a certain confidant meant. Lung Ruoxue nodded and expressed that she would act well until she found Luo Xian and the others. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue understood what he meant, the confidant finally relaxed and sat back down properly. Not long after, hurried footsteps could be heard from outside the living room. Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree were calmly drinking the tea that they had brought with them until a middle-aged man walked in from outside. The middle-aged man also saw Lung Ruoxue with a single glance and shouted, "Lung Ruoxue!" His heart trembled. Why did the unreliable alliance master of the 5 alliances send Lung Ruoxue to him as a gift? Wasn't she trying to harm him? The middle-aged man was infuriated by this fact, and his anger rose to the top of his head. However, he didn't dare to lose his temper in front of Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, if he really offended this ancestor, even the General Alliance wouldn't be able to save him. When Lung Ruoxue heard the other party calling out her name, she didn't even raise her head. She just calmly did what she was supposed to do. However, a certain trusted aide was already drenched in cold sweat. He might have said it calmly earlier, but when the alliance masters of the 3 alliances recognized him, his heart was beating more violently than anyone else. So, he was afraid of death. Third alliance master, why you've got the wrong person. She's not Lung Ruoxue. A certain confidant forcefully concealed the panic in his heart and said in a calm manner. Not Lung Ruoxue? Just look alike. After hearing the words of a certain trusted aide, the alliance master of the 3 alliances worriedly took out Lung Ruoxue's portrait to compare. Other than the fact that her temperament did not resemble that ancestor's, her appearance was exactly the same. How could there be someone who looked so similar? The alliance masters of the 3 alliances were still worried. He walked closer to take a closer look, and then looked at the portrait in his hand. He was still full of doubts. However, the woman in the portrait had the air of a queen, and the one in front of him was definitely a little white flower that people couldn't help but want to pity. Look at her delicate appearance, how attractive! You're not Lung Ruoxue? After some thought, the alliance master of the 3 alliances purposely reached out to touch Lung Ruoxue's face. However, Lung Ruoxue seemed to be extremely afraid as she hid behind the mother parasol tree. She even put on a frightened expression. Thanks, the parasol tree mother tree broke out in a cold sweat. She then grabbed the wrist of the alliance master of the 3 alliances and shouted, "What do you want to do? You're not allowed to bully my little sister." I didn't bully her, I just wanted to confirm if she's Lung Ruoxue. The alliance masters of the 3 alliances spoke the truth patiently. After all, the mother parasol tree was also a peerless beauty. It was necessary to be gentle to a beauty. What Lung Ruoxue? Which woman's substitute did you take my sister for? I'm telling you, my sister Wu Shui is not one of those women. The Wutong mother tree, Hedong Shi, roared. The alliance master of the 3 alliances could not help but wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. He did not expect that of the 2 beauties in front of him, one was so weak that she looked like she was going to faint at any moment, and the other was a little chilly. However, she was really spicy and flavorful. He liked it. If the other party really wasn't Lung Ruoxue, then he would be very satisfied with these 2 women. However, he was suspicious by nature and would never let his guard down just because the other party was weak. Hence, he tried to probe her again and wanted to reach out to touch Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face. As for Lung Ruoxue, she simply hid in the embrace of the parasol tree. She was so frightened that her little face turned pale. Her beautiful eyes were glistening with tears as she said gently, "Sister, I'm so scared. Let's go home." Shui don't be afraid. With big sister here, this uncle won't dare to bully you. The mother parasol tree was sweating profusely, thinking, Shui, isn't your acting a little too much? However, she was very cooperative with her words and glared at the leaders of the three alliances. But this uncle is so fierce. It's like it's going to eat people. Leng Ruoxue said with a face full of fear. The tears in her beautiful eyes swirled but did not fall, making her look even more pitiful. Don't be afraid, I won't be fierce. Don't ever think about going home again. This is your home, you can live here in peace. They'll send people to take good care of you. As long as we're here, well, definitely let you and your sister live a good life. The three alliance masters promised. After testing the waters time and time again, he finally let go of his suspicions that the other party was Leng Ruoxue. In his heart, this weak and frail woman in front of him could never be the goddess of slaughter, Leng Ruoxue. Really? 2 drops of tears rolled down from Leng Ruoxue's beautiful eyes. One of them was even hanging on her thick and curly eyelashes, making people want to love her even more. The alliance master's heart softened when he heard her gentle question. Such a delicate beauty would definitely be pampered by others. Therefore, the alliance masters of the three alliances nodded heavily, then turned to one of their confidants, who was petrified, and said, Go back and tell your alliance master that I'm very satisfied with his gift. A certain trusted aide suddenly came back to his senses when he heard this, and he nodded his head somewhat woodenly. One had to know that he was completely dumbfounded by the situation in front of him. This was really too horrifying. How did the queen-level Azura become a little white flower in the blink of an eye? He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. It wasn't switched? He had been there the whole time and could clearly see that the woman who was hiding in the embrace of the mother parasol tree with a frightened look was definitely Leng Ruoxue. However, looking at her helpless look now, which man could reject her? The confidant's heart trembled violently, and he was even more determined to not offend the 2 women in front of him. This was really too terrifying. The other party simply had a myriad of changes that were impossible to guard against. He had decided that he would leave this place as soon as he had the chance, because it was not safe here. He wanted to leave. He wanted to leave. He didn't want to stay here any longer. However, he did not need to ask for it as the 3 alliances masters let him go. Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree were naturally held back by the 3 alliances masters. The moment he heard the order to leave, a certain trusted aide ran away faster than a rabbit. However, Leng Ruoxue didn't want him to be too idle and had secretly sent him a voice transmission, telling him to be on standby at all times, or else he would bear the consequences. Chapter 2664. Leng Ruoxue's ever-changing face. 3. When a certain confidant received this news, he even had the thought of buying a piece of tofu to kill himself. So, isn't this asking for his life? You can't bully people like this, okay? However, he definitely did not dare to disobey Leng Ruoxue. Even though he was out of the 3 alliances' sphere of influence, he did not dare to go too far. Who asked the queen to say that she could summon him at any time? My God! Someone come and save him. Leng Ruoxue definitely didn't know about a certain trusted aide's wish. However, even if she knew, she wouldn't take it to heart. After that, she and the mother parasol tree moved into a small courtyard in the 3 alliances' encampment. Although the courtyard wasn't big, it was exquisite. It wasn't hard to see that the 3 league masters had put in a lot of effort to build it. The people who were sent to serve Leng Ruoxue and the parasol tree knew that their alliance master had taken a fancy to the 2 women living here. Hence, they did not dare to be negligent. As for Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree who had turned into golden canary, they looked obedient on the surface and did not step out of their homes. But in reality, the 2 of them had secretly used their divine senses to search the 3 alliances' encampments several times. In the end, they confirmed that Luo Xian and the rest were not here. Shui, could it be that guy from the 5 alliances is lying to us, deliberately using us to get rid of his enemies? After searching through the 3 alliances' encampment, the parasol tree and Leng Ruoxue sat in the garden as if no one was around. On the surface, They did not speak, but they were communicating through voice transmission. I don't think the leaders of the 5 alliances would dare. If he lies to me, he knows the consequences. Lung Ruoxue analyzed. The parasol tree nodded and said seriously, "That's true, but where is the person we're looking for?" Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment and directly sent a voice transmission to one of her confidants. "The person I'm looking for isn't in the 3 leagues." After saying this, she cut off the connection between the two of them. When the other party heard this, he was so scared that his little face turned pale. If he wasn't in the 3 alliances, was this a sign that something was going to happen? He didn't know why, but he felt very uneasy. He immediately reported back to the 5 alliances, and the 5 alliances' leaders panicked. If Lung Ruoxue couldn't find the person he was looking for in the 3rd and 4th leagues, she might think that he was lying to her. However, the information he received showed that those people were indeed in the 3rd and 4th leagues. Afraid of Lung Ruoxue's fury, the alliance masters of the 5 alliances hurriedly sent people to the 3 and 4 alliances to investigate the situation. They had to find out where those people were. On the other side, Lung Ruoxue secretly informed the mother parasol tree of the situation. The two of them then truly enjoyed the treatment of the 3 alliances. In any case, there would be people outside to help them keep an eye on the situation. All they had to do was put on a good show in front of the alliance masters of the 3 alliances. The two of them wanted to leave a deeper impression on the 3 alliances master, but strangely, ever since the 3 alliances master had arranged for them to stay in this courtyard, he had not come to visit them even once. This made the two of them suspicious. After waiting for a few days, the alliance masters of the 3 alliances finally arrived. The moment Lung Ruoxue saw the alliance master of the 3 alliances, she immediately shot him a resentful glance. Then, she turned around and returned to her room arrogantly. When the mother parasol tree saw this, it did not give the alliance masters of the 3 alliances a good look and even pulled a long face. Seeing that the beauty seemed to be a little dissatisfied, the leader of the 3 alliances immediately smiled and coaxed, "Tong, you're angry too. It's because I have something important to do these few days that I didn't come to see you sisters. What important matter made you leave us 2 sisters here for so many days? If you don't explain clearly, don't even think that we'll talk to you." The mother parasol tree was a domineering and narrow-minded woman. When the alliance master heard this, he quickly explained, "The 3 alliances of the divine realm gave us a mission. I've been busy with this for the past few days. In fact, this was all nonsense." He did not come to see Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree because he was playing hard to get. This trick of his had always been surprisingly effective and he had tried it out time and time again. After saying that, he took out 2 beautifully wrapped boxes and placed them in front of the mother parasol tree. He smiled and said, "This is a gift for you and Shuero, see if you like it." This was also a move he was used to. How could he not be generous enough to give a little blood if he wanted a woman to be completely devoted to him? And he was very confident that no woman could escape the attack of the cannonball. The mother parasol tree opened one of the gift boxes very cooperatively. After taking a look, it immediately revealed a surprised expression and then said embarrassedly, "This gift is too expensive, we're not worthy of it." The gift that the alliance master of the 3 alliances gave her was a set of beautiful blue jewelry inlaid with high-grade water attribute crystals. The workmanship was exquisite and the style was beautiful. One could tell that it was expensive just by looking at it. Moreover, if it were any other woman, they would definitely be charmed by this set of beautiful jewelry. But who was the mother parasol tree? How could she be so easily hit by this little cannonball? The words she had said to the alliance masters of the 3 alliances also made her feel a little disgusted, but she held back the feeling of wanting to vomit and pretended to like the gift very much. She threw a charming eye at the alliance masters of the 3 alliances with affection. The alliance masters of the 3 alliances were overjoyed. He knew that this gift would definitely be useful. After all, no woman would be able to reject such beautiful jewelry. The alliance master of the 3 alliances, who thought that he had succeeded, could not help but approach the mother parasol tree and pull him into his arms. However, the mother parasol tree dodged him easily. "Thanks, how detestable. This woman was really greedy. The alliance master of the three alliances was furious when he saw the mother parasol tree dodge his wolf claws. He didn't expect that such a beautiful set of jewelry couldn't satisfy the other party. He hated himself for not being able to even touch the corner of his opponent's clothes even though he was bleeding. In his past history of hunting for women, this could be said to be a tragic defeat. However, the thoughtful alliance master of the three alliances did not show any dissatisfaction on his face. Instead, he said lovingly, "Tong, I really like you." "Oh really? Then do you like me more or Schwer more?" The mother parasol tree laughed and asked with an expression that demanded an answer from the alliance master. "I like both." The leader of the three alliances laughed complacently. "I can't like all of them. There can only be one person I like the most. Tell me, who do you like the most?" The mother parasol tree was clearly not satisfied with the alliance master's words and did not let it go. "I like you the most. I like you the most." Helplessly, the alliance master of the three alliances could only say this. He thought of explaining it to Schwer when he got back so that the weak little rabbit wouldn't get angry at him. "This is more like it." The mother parasol tree was satisfied, but it still did not let the other party take any advantage of it. The alliance masters of the three alliances could only be angry at this. After the alliance masters of the three alliances had left, Lung Ruoxue put on a weak and delicate appearance and walked out of the room. She secretly transmitted a message to the mother parasol tree. "Senior, I didn't expect your acting skills to be so outstanding. It's really an eye-opener for me today." "Bad girl. Who am I doing this for? You don't know how disgusting it was when I said those words to the alliance master of the three alliances. Damn it, I've never been like this in all my life." The mother parasol tree said, sweating. "Thank you for your hard work, senior." Lung Ruoxue tried to please him. "It's good that you know." The mother parasol tree was satisfied. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue suddenly received a voice transmission from a certain trusted aide. Immediately, her expression turned grave. "Schwer, what's wrong?" The mother parasol tree quickly asked as it sensed that something was wrong with Schwer. So the third and fourth alliances have courtyards on the divine continent. However, they are not within the Ascender Alliance's sphere of influence. No wonder we didn't discover them. Lung Ruoxue replied. "Then let's quickly go to the courtyard. Your subordinates should be locked up there." The mother parasol tree said anxiously. "The people from the 5 alliances told me that they don't know the exact location of the courtyards of the 3rd and 4th alliances." Lung Ruoxue replied honestly. "In that case, we can only let the alliance masters of the 3 alliances take the initiative to bring us there?" The mother parasol tree was a little speechless. It seemed like he still had to use the honey trap. This fact made her a little depressed. "I'll have to trouble Senior to cooperate," Lung Ruoxue said in a coquettish manner. "All right. In order to save your subordinates, I'll go all out. Schwer, you have to make it up to me after we save her," the mother parasol tree requested. Lung Ruoxue hurriedly nodded and started to feign illness. Her illness naturally attracted the attention of the 3 alliances' leaders. When the alliance masters of the 3 alliances saw the pale and sickly beauty, they immediately felt heartache. The mother parasol tree took the opportunity to request to bring her sister to a quiet place to recuperate. It even said that Schwer had been weak since young and a crowded place was not suitable for her to live in. The alliance master of the 3 alliances had thought about this for a long time. He really could not bear to let these 2 beauties be too far away from him. However, as he watched the weak Schwer become thinner day by day, and the mother parasol tree stared at him with resentful eyes all day long, he finally took the bait and offered to send the 2 sisters to another courtyard to recuperate. The next day, the alliance master of the 3 alliances, who acted swiftly, sent someone to send Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree to the courtyard. The residence of the alliance master of the 3 alliances was located in an unknown place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. The greenery there was abundant and the environment was beautiful. It was really a good place to recuperate. When they arrived at the courtyard, Lung Ruoxue noticed that there was more than one tall and magnificent courtyard. She pretended to be curious and asked the guard who was escorting her about the place next to it. When she heard the guard say that the place next to it was the courtyard of the Four Alliances leader, Lung Ruoxue and the parasol tree secretly exchanged glances and saw a smile in each other's eyes. This really didn't take any effort at all. He had thought that he would have to figure out a way to find out where the other courtyards of the Four Alliances leaders were, but it was just next door. This would save them a lot of trouble. However, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to alert the enemy before she rescued Luo Xian and the others. She pretended to be surprised and said, "I didn't expect our alliance master to build a courtyard with the Four Alliances. Sister, this is great, our safety is even more guaranteed." Chapter 2665. Meeting Li Zhong, 1. Yup. With the Four Alliances as our neighbors, I don't have to worry about our safety in such a remote place. The mother parasol tree also put on a look of extreme relief. When the guard who brought them here heard this, he was a little unhappy. Did the two of them not trust their strength? One of the guards didn't care that the two women in front of him were the Alliance Master's favorites and said angrily, "Don't worry, even without the Four Alliances as neighbors, we brothers will protect you." Of course we believe that, but with the Four Alliances as company, wouldn't it be safer? The mother parasol tree said with a smile. Seeing that she wanted to drag the Four Alliances into this, the guards were helpless. Even though they were furious at Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree's thoughts, they did not dare to offend the two of them too much. After all, they were the Alliance Master's women. If he complained to them in front of the Alliance Master, they would have to bear the consequences. "Ha, beauty, you really have good taste." At this moment, a smug laugh came from the courtyard next door. Then a tall, handsome man in his 30s walked out of the courtyard. The guards' expressions changed when they saw him. On the other hand, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree looked at each other in confusion until the other party walked up to them. "She's really a stunning beauty." As the man spoke, he reached out his hand. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue's face turned pale with fear and she hid behind the mother parasol tree. "Don't be afraid." The mother parasol tree quickly consoled Lung Ruoxue. Then, it glared at the man with a pair of fiery eyes and said, "What are you doing? Do you know who we are? Ha! You're really hot beauties. Don't be afraid, I just really like you guys." The man laughed out loud when he saw this. The two women in front of him were truly stunning, more beautiful than any woman he had ever seen. He couldn't deny that he was very tempted. "Fourth Master, these two are our master's men." The guard who saw through the man's thoughts quickly warned. "Oh really? Then I'll exchange 10 pieces of top-grade crystal stones with him." The leaders of the Four Alliances said generously. After the guard heard this, he couldn't make up his mind. This matter wasn't something he could decide. However, 10 pieces of top-grade crystal stones was really a huge sum. However, the huge sum of money in his eyes made Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree extremely depressed. "You bastard! When did they become so worthless? You want to exchange the two of them for 10 pieces of top-grade crystal stones? Am I dreaming? How could the leaders of the three alliances agree to such a condition? It was worth more than this even if they went back to the Haotian continent. Alliance Master 4, I can't make this decision." At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree heard one of the guards speak. After hearing this, the two of them were depressed again. He couldn't make the decision, so this business couldn't be carried out. But what if he could make the decision? Were the two of them going to belong to the Four Alliance Masters? Thinking of this possibility, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree were a little annoyed. However, the two of them were very calm and did not show it on their faces. The parasol tree mother tree even said, "We won't exchange our alliance master with you. Give up on that idea." "Thanks, oh really? I'll talk to him personally." After the leaders of the Four Alliances finished speaking, they disappeared. Seeing that he had left, Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree did not think too much of it. After entering the courtyard that the guards had arranged for them, the two of them went straight into the room, saying that they were going to rest. The guard did not suspect anything. After the guard left, the two of them immediately used their divine senses to search. They searched around, but they didn't find any traces of Luo Xian and the others in the courtyards. "Shuer, I didn't tea?" the mother parasol tree asked in surprise. The fifth master wouldn't keep toying with them, would he? That old man shouldn't have the guts to do that. However, the person they were looking for wasn't in the Three Alliances courtyard. What should they do? The mother parasol tree was a little anxious. Shue's subordinates who were bound by the slave contract would have to suffer for another day if they were found later. This situation was really terrible. "Senior, don't worry. We'll find them." Leng Ruoxue was worried about her subordinates as well. However, she had to comfort the mother parasol tree first. They could not afford to lose their composure. "Yes." The mother parasol tree nodded, but it was very uncertain in its heart. For the next few days, Leng Ruoxue continued to pretend to be weak while the parasol tree mother tree went to chat with the guards. Initially, she had wanted to find out if there were any other courtyards in the lower Three Alliances. However, the guards had no idea at all. After spending half a day's effort, she could not find out anything useful. After telling Leng Ruoxue about her depressed mood, Leng Ruoxue personally went to look for the guards. Of course, she still had to ask Qingju for help and let him read their minds. However, it was to no avail. However, she found out that the eldest miss of the Three Alliances was currently living in a courtyard. After exchanging information with the mother parasol tree, the two of them were a little puzzled. According to their divine senses, they didn't find any big miss of the 3 leagues. Could it be that the big miss of the 3 leagues had already left before they arrived? However, before the two of them could figure out where the eldest miss of the Third Alliance had gone, the Alliance Master of the Third Alliance came looking for them. Naturally, the Alliance Master of the Fourth Alliance, who had a smug look on his face, was accompanying him. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue's condition was much better, the Alliance Master of the Three Alliances was naturally in a good mood. However, when he thought about how this woman was about to no longer belong to him, his mood fell again. After hesitating for a moment and seeing the leaders of the 4 alliances winking at him, the leader of the 3 alliances took a deep breath and said, "Shuer, from today onwards, you belong to the 4 alliance masters." Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree looked at each other. They thought they had heard wrongly, but when they saw the serious expression on the alliance master's face, they were sure that he was not joking. "Alliance master, what is the meaning of this?" The mother parasol tree was instantly enraged as it roared. "The Third Alliance Master has already sold Shuer to me." Seeing that Alliance Master 3 was too embarrassed to speak, Alliance Master 4 gloated. "What? Alliance Master, how can you do this? You've really gone too far." Hearing this, the mother parasol tree was even angrier. Damn it, he dared to sell out her little girl. Wasn't he looking for death? "Why can't I do this? How have I gone too far? You're all gifts from the 5 alliance masters, so naturally, you're at my disposal. I don't want to support a sickly woman. Do you know how much money I've spent to treat her?" The alliance master of the 3 alliances roared. If it wasn't for the fact that Wu Shui was seriously ill and was a bottomless pit, he really couldn't bear to sell her. But if he didn't sell her, he didn't know how much money he would have to spend on her. His heart ached for the money. The parasol tree wanted to argue with the 3rd alliance master when Leng Ruoxue tugged at her sleeve and said in a choked voice, "Sister, don't blame the alliance master. I'm too useless." Chapter 2666, Meeting Li Zhong, 2. Then, she turned her teary eyes to the Alliance Master and asked pitifully, "Alliance Master, how much did you sell me for?" "Beauty, there are 5 pieces of top-grade crystal stones." Alliance Master 3's face turned red and he was too embarrassed to answer, but Alliance Master 4 answered honestly. 5 pieces of high-grade crystal stones, so much money. Leng Ruoxue pretended to be surprised. In reality, she was so angry that she almost broke her white teeth. The anger in her heart was surging to the top of her head. She's only worth 5 pieces of high-grade crystal? Isn't this too cheap? Leng Ruoxue was so depressed by her price that she wanted to vomit blood. However, the mother parasol tree was shocked and could not help but ask, "Didn't you say 10 top-grade crystals?" "Beauty, 10 top-grade crystals is the price of the two of you. Right now, the third alliance master is only willing to give me your little sister, so of course I can only pay half." The 4 alliance masters replied as if it was a matter of course. The mother parasol tree was infuriated when it heard that. Damn it. She and Schwer were only worth 5 pieces of high-grade crystal stones each, so they were worth 10 pieces in total. And now, the alliance master of the 3 alliances had separated the 2 of them. How preposterous! In that instant, the mother parasol tree had already sentenced the alliance masters of the 3 alliances to death. Did he really think that he could sell it to anyone in this world? Did he treat them as slaves? The mother parasol tree had never thought that it would be so worthless. Seeing that the parasol tree mother tree was unhappy, the alliance master of the 3 alliances coaxed Tong in giving Schwer to the 4 alliances for her own good. The 4 alliances are much richer than our 3 alliances. If she goes to the 4 alliances, Schwer's illness won't be a problem at all. Moreover, the 4 alliances are very close to our 3 alliances. You sisters can meet whenever you want. Oh really? Then I'm going to live with Schwer in the 4 alliances. The mother parasol tree requested. How can this be? He wasn't that stupid to let Tong go to the 4 alliances. Wouldn't that be sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth? Why not? Schwer is sick now, as her sister. How can I not care about her? The mother parasol tree's performance as a good sister was quite on point. What a good sister. Third alliance master, why don't you let this beauty live with me? I'll take good care of them. Seeing this, the leaders of the 4 alliances quickly expressed their opinions, hoping to leave a good impression on the mother tree. The alliance masters of the 3 alliances became anxious and said, "No. That's absolutely not allowed. What if I insist on going?" The mother parasol tree asked coldly. "I said no, no." The 3rd alliance master roared in rage. He felt that the mother parasol tree was challenging his bottom line, so he could no longer tolerate its behavior. Didn't he just rely on the fact that he liked her? Without his love, did this woman really think that she could still be in the 3 leagues like a fish in water? Guards, lock Lin Tong in her room. Without my orders, no one is allowed to let her out. Immediately, the 3rd alliance master summoned the guards and ordered them angrily. When the guard heard this, he immediately grabbed her arms and forcefully pulled her away and locked her in the room. After the mother parasol tree was locked in the room, it kept knocking on the door and shouting, "Let me out! Let me out! You bastard!" Lung Ruoxue, who was outside, was also so worried that tears were shimmering in her eyes. She kept calling out, "Sister! Sister!" Then, she turned to the alliance masters of the 3 alliances and begged, "Alliance master, I beg you to let me go. She didn't mean to go against you, she did it for her useless sister." "Thanks, Schwer, as long as you obediently follow the 4 alliance masters, I naturally won't blame your sister. I'll let her out when she calms down." Seeing this, the alliance masters of the 3 alliances agreed. "Then I'm relieved," Lung Ruoxue said softly. Then, she walked to the door of the room where the mother sycamore tree was closed and said through the door, "Sister, I'm going to the 4 alliances with the 4 alliance masters. Don't worry about me. I believe the 4 alliance masters will take good care of me. You have to take good care of yourself too. I'll come to see you in 2 days. Schwer, don't you go." The mother parasol tree shouted after hearing those words. "Sister, the alliance master will like you more if you are obedient," Lung Ruoxue reminded. Lung Ruoxue's words of advice pleased the alliance masters. At the same time, he felt a sense of reluctance to part with her. If it wasn't for the fact that she was so weak and sickly, he really couldn't bear to sell such a beauty. But now that the wood had already been cast into a boat, it was too late to regret. As he watched the 4th alliance master take Lung Ruoxue away, the 3rd alliance master suddenly felt as if something was missing in his heart. When they arrived at the 4th alliance, the 4th alliance master arranged a relatively quiet place for Lung Ruoxue and even explained to her that it was for the sake of her health. Leng Ruoxue expressed her gratitude obediently, then returned to her room with the excuse that she was not feeling well. When she reached her room, Leng Ruoxue immediately sent a voice transmission to the parasol tree, telling it that she was fine. However, from the mother parasol tree's words, she could tell that it was quite angry and was even shouting that it would teach the two stinky men a lesson. Needless to say, the stinky man mentioned by the mother parasol tree must be the alliance masters of the 3 alliances and the 4 alliances. Hearing the mother parasol tree roaring in her heart, Leng Ruoxue consoled it for a while before cutting off the connection between the two of them. Then she began to use her divine consciousness to search. That's a prison cell, right? Leng Ruoxue searched around and found a familiar aura in the place that looked like a prison cell. However, the light in the prison cell was too dark, so she could not see clearly what was inside. Since she had found something suspicious, Leng Ruoxue naturally would not wait any longer. After summoning Ling and casting an invisibility spell on herself, Leng Ruoxue searched for her memory and found the prison cell. As soon as he entered the cell, a damp smell hit him in the face. It was so unpleasant that it was almost suffocating. Leng Ruoxue covered her nose and mouth, then moved her feather out to help her lead the way. Feather's night vision played a huge role in the dark cell. Soon, it found a few familiar-looking people in one of the cells. After reporting the situation to Leng Ruoxue asked you to bring her to the cell. Through the dark cell door, Leng Ruoxue used the faint moonlight to recognize her cheapskate big brother. At this moment, the cheap big brother was lying on the ground, not moving at all. "Big brother!" Leng Ruoxue called out softly. However, Li Zhong didn't have any reaction. Leng Ruoxue was extremely worried. The next moment, she summoned the golden eagle in her hand. Leng Ruoxue did not even think before she ordered, "Little guy, unlock the door for me." Oh! The golden hawk had learned to read people's minds. It knew that the fierce woman was in a bad mood, so it would grant her every request. After that, it made a few gestures with its little claws, and the giant lock on the cell door made a crisp sound as it was opened. Chapter 2667, Meeting Li Zhong, 3. Leng Ruoxue hurriedly walked in and helped Li Zhong up from the ground. After feeding him an elixir, she called out softly, "Big brother, wake up." Li Zhong, who was in a daze and felt as if his entire body was on fire, suddenly felt a cool and comfortable sensation in his body. Then, he heard a woman's gentle call. After a while, he opened his eyes with great difficulty. The light in the cell was very dark, so he couldn't see the face of the person in front of him clearly. He only felt that the person in front of him should be a woman, and there was a sense of familiarity. "You're Li Zhong," whose mind gradually regained clarity, asked with some uncertainty. "Im Shuer, big brother?" Leng Ruoxue said, her heart aching. "Shuer? You're really Shuer?" When Li Zhong heard this voice and this name, he simply couldn't believe his ears. He couldn't be dreaming, right? Why would he hear Shuer's voice here? He must be dreaming. Li Zhong couldn't convince himself. Shuer would not come here. He probably missed that little girl Shuer too much, so he thought that he had seen her. Seeing that Li Zhong was sighing and saying that he was dreaming, Leng Ruoxue had no choice but to release a small flame. The flame instantly lit up their faces. "Shuer, is it really you?" When Li Zhong saw Leng Ruoxue's face clearly, he widened his eyes in disbelief and looked at her with his mouth half open. "Big brother, it's me." Leng Ruoxue smiled. "Shuer, leave this place quickly. This is a wolf's den. It's too dangerous for a girl like you to stay here alone. Leave quickly before anyone finds you." As if he suddenly thought of something, Li Zhong's expression changed drastically and he urged Leng Ruoxue to walk faster. "Big brother, I'm here to save you." Leng Ruoxue replied honestly. "We don't need you to save us. You should leave quickly. Don't let anyone find out or you'll be in danger." Li Zhong said anxiously, "Big brother, listen to me. I don't care about those people here at all. They can't hurt me." Leng Ruoxue could feel Li Zhong's worry and comforted him. "Really? Shuer, don't lie to me." Li Zhong was still not at ease. "Big brother, when have I ever lied to you?" You have to believe in my strength. If I didn't have the ability to save you, I wouldn't have dared to come here. Leng Ruoxue promised. Hearing her words, Li Zhongyi felt relieved. However, after some thought, he still told Leng Ruoxue, "Shui, we can't leave now. Luo Xian and his son, they're not with you?" Leng Ruoxue did not wait for Li Zhong to finish his sentence and asked anxiously. "No, they're being held by the Miss of the 3 Leagues." Li Zhong said. "Miss of the 3 Leagues?" Leng Ruoxue could not help but frown when she heard these words. The Miss of the 3 Leagues fell for Luo Fei and wanted to force her to marry him. Of course, Luo Fei wouldn't do it. In a fit of anger, the Miss of the 3 Leagues signed a slave contract with him, wanting Luo Fei to listen to her. She even tortured him in all ways and even used us to threaten Luo Fei to submit. Without waiting for Leng Ruoxue to continue asking, Li Zhong told her everything. With Shui, he seemed to have a pillar of support, and his mood miraculously calmed down. "Then what about you guys?" Leng Ruoxue asked with uncertainty. "We're also slaves now." As Li Zhong spoke, he lowered his head in shame. When he was in the Haotian continent, although he was not very famous, at least he was like a fish in water. No one dared to treat him like this. Who knew that he would become someone else's slave not long after he came to the godly land? And it was forced. How could the proud him bear this? Fortunately, he was strong enough to hold on. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to see Shui today. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue suppressed her anger and moved the small flame on her fingertip down. She saw that Li Zhong's clothes were in tatters and there were quite a few bloodstains on them. Then, she stood up and walked to the others. After a thorough check, the anger in Leng Ruoxue's heart suddenly rose. Everyone she saw had serious injuries on their bodies. The wounds were so deep that the bones could be seen. Blood had coagulated into black bones and stained the wounds. Some of the wounds had already festered. It was a ghastly sight. The Golden Hawk, who had been silent all this while, saw this scene and jumped into Leng Ruoxue's arms in shock and fear. It buried its head in Leng Ruoxue's arms and mumbled, "So scary! It's so scary!" Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue's anger rose by a few levels. After instructing Ling to bring the parasol tree over, Leng Ruoxue remained silent for a few minutes. Li Zhong was so scared that he didn't even dare to breathe. He didn't know that Shui Er's aura was so powerful. This kind of Shui made him feel more at ease. However, when he thought of his current status, he was no longer happy. So what if he saw Shui? He was now someone else's slave, the lowest status in the entire godly mainland. What future did he have? How could they be together with Shui in this state? If people knew that Shui had a few godbrothers who were slaves, Shui Er's future would probably be ruined. For a time, Li Zhong thought of many things. The more he thought about it, the more depressed he felt. Thanks at this moment, the mother parasol tree arrived. The moment she entered the cell, she happily said to Shui, "Shui, I heard that you found her. That's great. We have found them, but they are seriously injured. Besides, Luo Xian and his son are not here." Leng Ruoxue said honestly. "Heavens! How did they get injured to this extent? Who did this?" Using Leng Ruoxue's flame, the mother parasol tree only needed a glance to see the few unconscious people lying on the ground. They were on the verge of death. "Miss of the 3 Leagues." Leng Ruoxue said coldly. The chill in her voice was so strong that even the mother parasol tree could feel the chill. Miss of the 3 Leagues? Then why did she put him in the 4 alliances? The mother parasol tree was very puzzled. Then it turned its gaze to the only man who was clear-headed, waiting for him to answer. "We are the slaves of the 4 alliances leaders." Li Zhong sighed. "So, they are colluding?" The mother parasol tree came to a sudden realization. "They have a good relationship," Li Zhong said in a reserved manner. With his words, Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree understood everything. "Shui, what do you plan to do now?" The mother parasol tree looked at Leng Ruoxue and asked. "Let's save Big Brother and the others first." Leng Ruoxue let out a soft sigh. Then she fed healing pills to the unconscious people. "Shui, we can't. Li Zhong wanted to remind Leng Ruoxue that they couldn't leave yet. If they were discovered by the other party, it would be even more difficult to save Luo Xian and his son. You don't have to worry about Luo Xian and his son. I'll go and save them later. Leng Ruoxue knew what Li Zhong was worried about, so she gave him a calming pill. However, perhaps the other party had left a deep impression on Li Zhong. He was afraid that those people would kill Luo Xian and his son after they were rescued, so he still had a worried expression on his face. The mother parasol tree saw this and roared, "Don't worry and do as Schwer says. Unless you really want to be a slave to the Four Alliance's leaders for the rest of your life? I don't want to, but I've been forced into a slave contract. I'm afraid I won't be able to escape this life." Li Zhong said sadly. Who said that? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. The Miss of the Three Leagues said that if we are slaves for a day, we will be slaves for life. Li Zhong said very honestly. You believe that? The parasol tree mother tree said in disbelief. Shui Er's godbrother was too easy to fool, wasn't he? Could she be lying to us? Hearing the underlying meaning of the mother parasol tree's words, Li Zhong was stunned. She was indeed lying to you. The slave contract can be terminated. Leng Ruoxue explained. She could guess why Li Zhong would believe the words of the eldest miss of the Three Alliances. After all, to an ascender who had just ascended, there were many things that they were unfamiliar with. It was precisely because of this that they could be easily deceived. Clearly, Li Zhong was one of those who had been deceived. Fuck this bitch. Li Zhong was so angry that he started to curse, but his mood instantly became better. After all, anyone who knew that he didn't have to be a slave for the rest of his life would be happy. Big brother, calm down. I'll give you a chance to take revenge. Leng Ruoxue saw that Li Zhong's emotions were a little agitated and hurriedly consoled him. Schwer, you must let us deal with that bitch with our own hands. Otherwise, I won't be able to vent my hatred. Li Zhong said viciously, the hostility in his body completely dissipating. Don't worry, I'll leave it to you. Leng Ruoxue promised. At this moment, another weak sobbing voice was heard. Master, is that you? When she heard this voice, Leng Ruoxue moved the little flame on her finger to the owner of the voice. The moment the person who spoke saw this, he immediately bawled and threw himself in front of Leng Ruoxue, saying pitifully, Master, I thought I would never see you again in this life. The person who was crying and complaining was one of the ancestors of the Luo family and also Luo Xian's father. Don't cry, didn't you see it? Seeing a middle-aged old man crying in front of her, Leng Ruoxue couldn't put her feelings into words. In short, it was very complicated. Don't cry. I won't cry. The Luo family's ancestor said quickly, but his voice was still a little choked. He then said, Master, you must save Xian and Fei. Those two children have suffered a lot. I'll definitely save them. Do you know where they're being held? Leng Ruoxue saw that most of them had woken up, and all of them had tears in their eyes. She was afraid that they would all start crying, so when she asked this question, she was even more careful, afraid that she would remind them of unhappy things. They've been locked up in a secret room by the Lady of the Three Leagues, and that secret room just so happens to be in that lattice room. Li Zhong said after seriously recalling. Her room? This is a courtyard of the Four Alliances. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Yes, this is the place where she lives. Li Zhong said with absolute certainty. Chapter 2668. Then, you can recognize me as your master? 1. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go and save them. The mother parasol tree said anxiously. She didn't want to stay here for another day. If she saw people from the 3rd and 4th leagues again, she would throw up. More importantly, she wanted revenge. Seeing the mother parasol tree's eagerness, Leng Ruoxue understood. However, Li Zhong and the rest could not understand why. They only felt that the people around Shui were all loyal, and women were no exception. With Li Zhong leading the way, Leng Ruoxue asked Ling to cast an invisibility spell on everyone. The group of them successfully arrived at the courtyard of the eldest miss of the Three Alliances. After entering the courtyard, They found the room where the eldest miss of the three alliances was staying. Lung Ruoxue saw that the eldest miss was not around and thought to herself, "I'll let her off first." Then, Lung Ruoxue followed Li Zhong's instructions and found the hidden wall of the secret room. Lung Ruoxue extended her hand and felt around the wall. However, she did not find any mechanism. Helplessly, she could only release you. "Be careful," Lung Ruoxue warned you. You nodded and looked at the wall with his bright eyes. A moment later, you used its sharp beak to peck at a certain spot on the wall. Lung Ruoxue understood and reached out to pat the wall. In an instant, a part of the wall caved in. She touched the part of the wall that had caved in and gestured for everyone to step back. Then, the wall opened up, revealing a secret chamber. "I found it." The mother parasol tree was pleasantly surprised and took the lead to enter. The secret room was very dark. Lung Ruoxue lit up a small flame, illuminating the secret room. Following that, her beautiful eyes searched around again. After only looking for half a circle, she discovered two people tied to a tall pillar in the middle of the secret room. The two of them had their heads lowered and were clearly unconscious. They were covered in wounds and blood was dripping to the ground from their wounds. Fei Xian. When Luo Xian's father saw the two people on the pillar, he quickly ran up and wanted to rescue them. However, the rope that tied them up was too stubborn. He tried to untie them for a long time, but he couldn't untie them. "Master, I can't untie this rope." Luo Xian's father was so anxious that he was about to cry. Then he turned to look at Lung Ruoxue pitifully, asking for help. "This isn't an ordinary rope," Lung Ruoxue said as she walked closer. As soon as she finished speaking, she took out the cold shadow. She and the cold shadow could already communicate telepathically. Then, the cold shadow left Lung Ruoxue's hand and flew a few rounds in the air. Two cold glints shot out towards the rope. The rope broke into a few pieces. When the patriarchs of the Luo family saw this, they quickly helped Luo Xian and Luo Fei to lie on the ground. Lung Ruoxue then handed them 2 healing elixirs. After the pills entered their stomachs, the injuries on both of their bodies started to heal and they woke up very quickly. When they saw Lung Ruoxue, both of them started to cry out of grievance. Even though it wasn't nice for 2 grown men to cry in front of her without any care for their image, Lung Ruoxue didn't stop them. She knew that this father and son duo had too many things in their hearts. Whether it was Luo Xing'er's incident or falling into the hands of the 3 leagues young miss, they had both suffered a huge blow. It was better to cry and vent it out than to keep it in their hearts. After a long time, the 2 of them finally stopped crying. "Master, we've let Master down." Luo Xian wiped his tears and said in embarrassment, "If you want to talk about Luo Xing'er, I already know. You can't be blamed for this." Lung Ruoxue smiled. "Master knows." When Luo Xian and his son, including Li Zhong and the others, heard what Lung Ruoxue said, they were all surprised. They had not told Shuer about this yet. It was unbelievable that Shuer already knew. "Thanks, I just came back from the Haotian continent. I saw Luo Lin and the others, and then I killed Sun Tao and the others." Lung Ruoxue sighed and explained after seeing through everyone's thoughts. "A bunch of idiots. If we didn't know about this, how could we have come to save you?" Seeing that everyone was still in a daze after listening to Shuer's words, the mother parasol tree could not help but roar. She then turned to Lung Ruoxue and said, "Shuer, why are your brothers and subordinates so stupid?" Pfft. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh out loud. Luo Xian and the others, on the other hand, blushed in embarrassment. This was the first time they had been called silly. Seeing that these people were a little embarrassed, Lung Ruoxue cleared her throat and said, "Let's leave this place first. If you have anything to say, we can talk outside." "Master, Luo Xian hesitated when he heard that Lung Ruoxue wanted to leave. "Don't worry about the slave contract. I'll help you remove the restrictions after we get out." Lung Ruoxue knew what Luo Xian was thinking and said directly. When Luo Xian heard this, he widened his eyes in disbelief. The moment Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree met, they knew that this fellow was also deceived. "It can be removed." Li Zhong patted Luo Xian's shoulder as if he was feeling the same. That's great, Wu. When Luo Xian and Luo Fei heard this, they were so excited that their eyes were filled with tears. Get out! Leng Ruoxue didn't want the two men to continue crying, so she got Ling to cast an invisibility spell on them. The group of people silently left the courtyard of the Four Alliances without alerting anyone. Once they were out of the courtyard, Leng Ruoxue did not lead the group to leave immediately. Instead, she threw a small flame each into the courtyards of the Third and Fourth Alliances. In an instant, then, an earth-shattering shout rang out in the courtyard, "Fire!" Everyone quickly put out the fire. Ah! Seeing this scene, Li Zhong and the others were dumbfounded again. Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly and turned to the crowd, "Let's go!" As she spoke, she gave you a look. You understood and instantly widened his eyes. After Leng Ruoxue and the rest were seated on its back, it spread its wings and flew into the sky. Its destination, Bamboo City. Originally, Leng Ruoxue knew of a method to remove the restriction. However, it was not suitable for Li Zhong and the others. Hence, she could only go to the Mission Guild. This place wasn't close to the Bamboo City's Quest Guild. It would take at least 3 days to reach there if they flew at full speed. However, on the second day of flying, Li Zhong and the others felt uncomfortable. There was a huge pain in their stomachs. They knew that this was the slave contract taking effect. Swear, the other party should have realized that we've gone missing. Li Zhong endured the pain and reminded. Not necessarily. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and felt that the other party was probably just testing her because her flames were not so easily extinguished. By the time the eldest miss of the 3 leagues and the others remembered the prisoners in the prison and secret chamber, they would have been burned to ashes. However, it wasn't a good idea for Li Zhong and the others to be in pain like this. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and moved them into the bracelet with a thought. After entering the bracelet, Li Zhong and the others immediately felt much better. Although there was still some pain, they could at least endure it. Chapter 2669. Then, you can recognize me as your master, too. When she felt that Li Zhong and the others in the bracelet were in less pain, Leng Ruoxue immediately pulled the mother parasol tree into the bracelet to check on their situation. How do you feel? Leng Ruoxue asked with concern. It's all right, I can endure it. Li Zhong took the lead. What about you guys? Leng Ruoxue turned her beautiful eyes to the Luo family. Master, we're not in as much pain as Li Zhong and the others. Luo Xian said honestly. How did this happen? Leng Ruoxue could not understand. Master, I'm guessing it might have something to do with the bloodline contract between us and you. It's probably the bloodline contract that helped us resist some of the restrictions of the slave contract, so we're free from the persecution of the slave contract. After thinking for a while, Luo Fei said, That makes sense. A bloodline contract is higher than a slave contract in the first place. It's a pity that you didn't contract it in the divine realm, so a slave contract will still have some influence on you, but not much. The mother parasol tree agreed upon hearing that. Yes, if it wasn't for the blood contract with Master, I'm afraid I would have lost my innocence long ago. Luo Fei said with lingering fear. AI. We've implicated you. Li Zhong said with some embarrassment. Uncle Li, don't say that. We're one. There's no such thing as a burden. When Luo Fei heard Li Zhong's words, he felt a little embarrassed. He was the one who had caused this matter. If they were to talk about dragging him down, he was probably the one who had dragged him down. But it's all in the past now, so let's not discuss who's right and who's wrong. Luo Xian also said, As the saying goes, a friend in need is sincere. After this incident, the relationship between them and the Li brothers could be said to have advanced by leaps and bounds. Leng Ruoxue nodded as well. However, the parasol tree mother tree was very curious about the conflict between these people and the 3 and 4 alliances. She asked curiously, Why did you think of going to the Ascender Alliance? Haven't you heard that the Ascender Alliance has a bad reputation? Hearing this, Li Zhong and the others quickly fell silent and sighed. After a long time, feeling the mother parasol tree's expectant and curious gaze, Li Zhong suppressed his anger and said, We didn't go to the Ascender Alliance on our own. We were deceived. Upon hearing this, the mother parasol tree could not help but blink its eyes. How did he lie? She was getting more and more curious. After we arrived here, we originally planned to cultivate while looking for Schwer. However, the divine continent is so big that looking for someone is like looking for a needle in a haystack. We didn't dare to look for her openly because we accidentally learned that ascendants are not welcomed here, so we didn't dare to expose our identities. Li Zhong explained. Then, by chance, we met the Miss of the 3 Leagues. She liked Luo Fei very much and expressed that she wanted to marry him. However, Luo Fei was a man. How could he marry a woman? Thus, Fei politely declined. However, that woman obviously didn't give up. We don't know how she found out that we were Ascenders. Just like how we told her about the benefits of the Ascender Alliance, we told her that if she wanted to find someone, she couldn't join the Ascender Alliance. She told us that joining the Ascender Alliance would make it easier to find the person we were looking for. After some discussion, we felt that this was reasonable. After all, the Ascender Alliance's influence in the godly mainland was not small, so we agreed. Who knew that this would also be the beginning of our nightmare? After sighing, Li Zhong continued. The Ascender Alliance is indeed very powerful in the divine mainland. However, we weren't clear about the Ascender Alliance's current situation at the time. After we went there, we realized that the Ascender Alliance didn't treat the Ascenders well. They would beat and scold them at every turn. At that time, after we understood the situation, we wanted to leave, but who knew that the big miss of the 3 alliances wouldn't allow us to leave? She even placed a slave restriction on us and wanted to use us to threaten Fei. Luo Xian continued after Li Zhong's words. After that, we've been living a life worse than a pig or a dog. If Schwer didn't come to save us, I really don't know how long I would have to endure such a life. Li Zhong said again. When he said this, his eyes were red. It was obvious that this matter had dealt him a heavy blow. Thanks, big brother, it's fine now. I won't let those who hurt you have an easy time. Just treat this as a dream. Leng Ruoxue consoled him. Yes. Li Zhong nodded his head. Before they came here, none of them had thought that the divine realm would be like this. They could not understand why the women of the divine realm were so shameless. Especially Luo Fei, he would probably not have any good feelings for these terrifying women in the divine world in a short period of time. What a sin. Big brother, before the restrictions on your bodies are removed, you should stay here for the time being. Leng Ruoxue suggested when she saw that Li Zhong and the others still had lingering fear. Alright, but Schwer, where is this place? Won't we make the owner unhappy if we stay here? With Leng Ruoxue's reminder, Li Zhong finally remembered that he still didn't know where he was. Don't cause trouble for Schwer. I want tea. This is my territory, you guys can stay here without worry. Leng Ruoxue smiled. That's good, Schwer. The spiritual energy here is so abundant. After knowing that it was Schwer's territory, Li Zhong was relieved. Then he was like a curious baby, asking all kinds of questions one after another. It wasn't just him. Although the others didn't ask as much as he did, every time Li Zhong asked, they would all stare at Leng Ruoxue with curiosity, waiting for her to answer. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could only call Qingju out and let him explain to these curious babies. She then pulled the mother parasol tree and went outside. A day later, they had finally arrived at Bamboo City. The mother parasol tree did not understand why Schwer had to come here. One had to know that this place wasn't close. When Leng Ruoxue heard the mother parasol tree's question, she smiled faintly and replied, "There's an acquaintance here." Schwer, can you tell me where you don't have acquaintances? Hearing this, the mother parasol tree was helpless. I don't know, but even if I don't have any acquaintances, I can still create acquaintances. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. Manufacture? The mother parasol tree was even more speechless. She somewhat understood what Schwer meant. The two of them entered the city and headed straight to the Mission Guild without any delay. The moment they entered, Leng Ruoxue asked to see their president. When the waiter heard this, he couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. Then, he looked at the two beautiful women in front of him as if they were crazy. Was their president that easy to meet? Swear, there's something wrong with the way this person is looking at us? The mother parasol tree noticed something amiss and whispered into Lung Ruox's ear. Yes, he took us for lunatics. Lung Ruoxue said in all seriousness. Her serious tone almost made the mother parasol tree break out in a cold sweat. Did Shuer have to be so serious? Chapter 2670. Then, you'll recognize me as your master. 3. We want to see your president. Lung Ruoxue repeated impatiently when she saw that the guard was not moving. I'm sorry, our president isn't here. The waiter could tell that these two people really wanted to see the president. However, the president had said not to let any random person in, so he did not dare to look at the two beauties in front of him. If the president were to get angry, he would be the one in trouble. You're really not here? Lung Ruox's eyes narrowed when she heard this, clearly displeased. No. The waiter resisted Lung Ruox's pressure and said. Seeing that Lung Ruox's expression was turning uglier by the second, the waiter thought that the other party would be angry. Who knew that Lung Ruoxue would actually take out a piece of earthen yellow top-grade crystal and toss it up and down in her hands. Notify us and this crystal is yours. Lung Ruoxue saw the waiter's drooling expression and went straight to the point. The waiter was very moved. This was the earth attribute top-grade crystal that was just right for him to use. Then, the waiter's attitude changed and he said respectfully, Please wait a moment. After saying that, the waiter turned around and went upstairs. The mother parasol tree looked at the waiter's back and despised him for being so greedy. Bah! What a snob. The mother parasol tree said with a look of disdain. It's only human nature. Lung Ruoxue was very calm. Shuer, why don't you just kill them? Why waste a high-grade crystal? You should know that we're only worth 5 high-grade crystals. The mother parasol tree said with a face full of grief and indignation. Shuer really did not know how to live. She gave out 1 piece just by passing on a message, but she only got 10 pieces after selling the 2 of them. A piece was gone just like that. What? Ha! Senior, calm down. I want to kill my way up, but I'm old friends with the president here, so I have to give him some face. Lung Ruoxue said it as a matter of course. All right then. The mother parasol tree nodded. She could not find any fault in this statement. At this moment, the waiter came down from upstairs and said with a happy face, I said a lot of nice things before the president agreed to see you. After he finished speaking, his eyes fell on the piece of high-grade crystal in Lung Ruox's hand. Lung Ruoxue nodded and threw the crystal in her hand to the waiter. She then pulled the mother parasol tree upstairs. She found her way to the president's office with great familiarity. The moment she entered, Lung Ruoxue regretted it as the person sitting inside was not someone she knew. Who are you? Lung Ruoxue asked directly after she sat down. I'm the president here. Miss can call me President Pu. The chunky old man squinted his eyes as he spoke. His pair of mischievous eyes were still sizing up Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree. The waiter didn't lie to him. They were really 2 stunning beauties. Shuer, don't you have an old relationship with the president here? Hearing the conversation between the two, the mother parasol tree asked in a low voice. The guild leader has changed. Lung Ruoxue replied honestly. It's really too unfortunate. The mother parasol tree did not know what to say. Her heart ached even more for the piece of high-grade crystal that Shuer had given away. She was only worth 5 pieces. May I ask where President Zeng is? Lung Ruoxue adjusted her state of mind and asked with a faint smile. Miss, you know President Zeng? President Pu asked in surprise. He had once said that she was his previous predecessor and had long since been transferred to the Divine Realms headquarters, yet this woman actually didn't know? He probably didn't have a close relationship with Zeng Yan, so he was relieved. We've met several times. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Oh, President Zeng was transferred to the Divine Realms headquarters a long time ago, so I'm in charge here now. President Pu explained. May I know why the young lady is looking for me? he asked. I want to terminate a few of my slave contracts. Leng Ruoxue said directly. Since Xing Yan was no longer here, she did not want to make a wasted trip. She could only let this fat old man handle it for her. Miss, do you know that once you cancel the slave contract, the slave will no longer belong to you? At that time, we won't have any means to control them, so the loss outweighs the gain. President Pu quickly reminded. Of course I know. You just have to help me handle it. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. All right then. However, the cost of terminating a slave contract is very expensive. President Pu couldn't help but remind him. I know. You don't have to worry about the money. Leng Ruoxue was very forthright. Hearing this, President Pu didn't know what to say. He could only accept his fate and help Leng Ruoxue with her business. Thanks. After flipping through the slave records, President Pu looked at Leng Ruoxue with his small eyes and said, Please tell me the name of the slave. Leng Ruoxue nodded and named a few of the slaves. Hearing this, President Pu's brows furrowed together and he said with a troubled expression, Miss, I'm sorry. From the records, those slaves don't belong to you, so I can't help you with this. What if I insist on it? Leng Ruoxue raised her brows and asked, her voice carrying a hint of coldness. President Pu shivered, but he still gathered his courage and said, This is the rule of our guild, I can't go against it. President Pu's words were spoken with a sense of justice. However, his small eyes did not stop sizing up Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree. Leng Ruoxue laughed when she heard that and said, As long as you do this for me, I won't mistreat you. You can name the price. This is not a matter of money, but of principle. President Pu said righteously. If it wasn't for the green light of desire in his eyes, Leng Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree would have believed that President Pu was a man of principle. What a pity! Don't talk to me about principles. Let me ask you, what do I have to do for you to help me? Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. This? President Pu hesitated for a moment, before saying with a troubled expression, We are not related. If I really handle this matter for you, it is equivalent to offending the Ascender Alliance. At that time, not only will I lose my position as the president, but I will also make a great enemy of the Ascender Alliance. I really don't need to take risks for a stranger. I only found out today that the quest guilds are afraid of the Ascender Alliance. After hearing that, the mother parasol tree said with a look of disdain. Why would our quest guild be afraid of the Ascender Alliance? What I mean is that if the headquarters finds out that I've done something for you, they'll definitely punish me severely. The Ascender Alliance won't let me off either. So, is it necessary for me to take the risk for you? You guys have nothing to do with me. President Pu said angrily. You're right. It's unnecessary to take risks for strangers. Leng Ruoxue agreed with President Pu's words. The mother parasol tree merely smiled without saying a word. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, President Pu gave her a "it's good that you know" look. He was obviously very satisfied with her tactfulness. Why don't we form some sort of relationship? Leng Ruoxue suggested. Upon hearing this, the mother parasol tree understood that it was time for a fight. However, President Pu didn't know Leng Ruoxue's intentions and even nodded his head in a daze. Yes, yes. As long as we have an extraordinary relationship, I will naturally do this for you. Since that's the case, you can recognize me as your master. Leng Ruoxue said casually, as if she was simply talking about what to eat today. Recognize a master? After hearing this, President Pu was stunned for a few minutes. After he recovered, he said angrily, Damn it, who are you going to make recognize you as master? Of course it's you. Didn't you say you wanted to have an extraordinary relationship with us? It's the best choice. Leng Ruoxue replied matter-of-factly. Meanwhile, the mother parasol tree was already rolling with laughter in its heart. She loved to see Shuer play with these guys who were not clear-headed the most. Did they really think that they could do whatever they wanted? Who said that master recognition was the best choice? After President Pu confirmed that he didn't hear wrongly, he shouted at the top of his voice again. Damn it. It was really too detestable. He didn't mean it that way at all, okay? Do you have a better choice? Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and asked with an innocent look. Of course. You can marry me. President Piyu boasted shamelessly. He puffed out his chest proudly. He was the guild master of the Divine Continent's Ing City Quest Guild. There was no need to mention his status. Here, everyone had to give him some face. Is this a toad lusting after a swan's flesh? Seeing that the guild leader in front of her dared to say it, the mother parasol tree was a little impressed. The ignorant were truly fearless. In the entire divine realm, it seemed that there was only one person who dared to say such words to them directly. At least, Alliance Master 3 and Alliance Master 4 didn't say that he treated them as his possession and that they were considered toads. Who are you calling a toad? President Piyu wasn't happy. Who would be in a good mood after being criticized by a woman? Of course it's you. The mother parasol tree decided to be an honest child. You really don't know what's good for you. With my status, it's your honor to be able to take a fancy to you. Do you understand? President Piyu said angrily from embarrassment. He thought that by saying his request, the two beauties in front of him would happily devote their lives to him, but who knew that they would actually call him a toad? Really, Uncle can endure it, but Aunt can't. May I ask who you are? Lung Ruoxue was very curious. Where did the old man in front of her get his confidence from? He thought that as long as he opened his mouth, any woman would come after him? I'll scare you to death if I tell you. I'm the chairman of Ing City's Missions Guild, and my son-in-law is the right-hand man of the 10th elder of the Divine World's Missions Guild. President Piyu looked at Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree proudly. What a strong backing. The mother parasol tree said fearfully as it wiped away its sweat on purpose. How is it? Are you afraid? When President Piyu heard the mother parasol tree's words, he became even more pleased and even looked at Lung Ruoxue provocatively. Faced with the provocation, Lung Ruoxue stood up calmly. Then, she pulled the little old man who was sitting on the chair across the desk over and smiled charmingly. Do I look like I'm afraid? What are you doing? I'm warning you, don't mess around. This is the territory of the Mission Guild, and you won't get any benefits from offending me. Seeing Lung Ruoxue's unfriendly and rude expression, President Piyu was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly threatened her. Chapter 2671. Who are you? 1. Oh really? What if I have to offend him? Faced with President Piyu's threat, Lung Ruoxue wasn't angry. Instead, she laughed and openly threatened him. You will regret this. Our mission guild will not let you off. The God Lord's estate won't let you off either. You'd better kowtow to me now and I might forgive you. Otherwise, you'll be dead. President Piyu saw that Lung Ruoxue was clearly a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water and was furious. He couldn't understand how this woman could be so bold to provoke the God Lord's estate's mission association. Wasn't she just courting death? Some people. You won't die if you don't seek death. President Piyu thought to himself. You've reminded me. So the quest guilds belong to the Divine Lord's residence. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be enlightened. It's good that you know. So, I can't be offended. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had finally understood, President Piyu's confidence grew. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue turned to look at the parasol tree and asked calmly, Senior, the Mission Guild belongs to the Divine Lord's estate. What should we do? Should we smash it or not? What's wrong with the God Lord's estate? They'll smash it as well. Upon hearing this, the mother parasol tree's momentum rose and it cooperated fully. Old man, did you hear that? After hearing the parasol tree's reply, Lung Ruoxue turned her gaze towards President Piyu and asked with a smile. You guys are really bold. The conversation between the two of them made President Piyu, who thought that victory was in his grasp, break out in cold sweat and his little face turned pale. These two women are so bold. They already knew that the Guild for Missions belonged to the Divine Lord's estate, yet they still wanted to destroy it? President Piyu wanted to cry but had no tears. Ever since he became the guild master of the Ing City Missions Guild, he could get whatever he wanted. He could do whatever he wanted without fear. All the major families on the godly mainland had to give him some face and address him as Your Excellency. But now, he felt a deep sense of powerlessness. The two crazy women in front of him didn't take him seriously at all. He really didn't know where they had come from. To dare to go against the Divine Master's estate, if he wasn't a lunatic, what was he? Yes, you're right. We're very bold. Lung Ruoxue agreed with a smile. She then tugged on his collar and asked, I'll ask you one last time, are you going to help us handle this matter? President Piyu struggled on his deathbed, not daring to relent. Although the threat of these two women made him feel afraid, his end would be even worse if he offended the Ascender Alliance. After all, the Ascender Alliance's influence in the divine realm was not small. However, his hesitation had already made Lung Ruoxue and the parasol tree unhappy. Lung Ruoxue took out her cold shadow and drew a few sword strokes in the air. The cold chi released by the cold shadow was directed at President Piyu's neck, causing him to be so frightened that his heart was trembling. Well, too bad. This woman was too evil. He actually dared to threaten him with a weapon. President Piyu was filled with grief and indignation. He was so frightened that his eyes were filled with tears as he looked at Lung Ruoxue pitifully. Don't be like this. It's not good for women to play with such sharp weapons. President Piyu reminded him pitifully, his heart trembling. I don't want to either. It's your fault for not cooperating. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. She then used the sharp blade of the cold shadow to pat President Piyu's round face, causing the cold shadow to tremble in anger, and the cold aura became even more terrifying. Look, even my sword is looking down on you. Lung Ruoxue saw that Han Ying was protesting, so she smirked at President Piyu. Thanks, then let it stay away from me. President Piyu begged. This was too bad. He was so scared that he had to pee. Fortunately, he held it in. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing. Sure, as long as you promise to help me break my slave contract. Lung Ruoxue stated her conditions. This isn't. Guild leader Piyu really didn't have the guts to help and wanted to reject it, but just as he said a few words, he was interrupted by the mother parasol tree impatiently. Schwer, don't talk nonsense with him, let's do it ourselves. The mother parasol tree said impatiently. Do it yourself? Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes, her face filled with innocence. Well, he's just the president of the Guild of Missions. As long as we know the procedure to terminate the contract, we can do it ourselves. The mother parasol tree reminded. That makes sense. Why didn't I think of that? Lung Ruoxue was enlightened. She felt that the mother parasol tree's idea was brilliant. She then contacted Qing Ju in secret and asked it to help her read his mind. In just a few minutes, Qing Ju told her that it was done. Now that she knew the procedure, Lung Ruoxue naturally had no use for this timid fellow. He threw him to the side and handed him over to the mother parasol tree to look after, while he sat in the seat of the president. What do you want to do? President Piyu listened to the conversation between the two of them. Now that he saw Lung Ruoxue sitting in his seat, a bad feeling rose in his heart. Nothing much. I'm just borrowing the official seal of your guild president. As soon as Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, she took out a silver seal from the drawer. The seal was not big, and it looked even more exquisite in her palm. In the middle of the seal were the words, Ing City, and at the bottom was the symbol of the Divine Master's estate. As for the process of removing the slave contract, it would first be the application submitted by the subordinate branch of the Mission Guild. Finally, it would be reviewed and approved by the Divine Realms headquarters. The headquarters would also send over a method to remove the restriction, and the slave contract would be removed. To be honest, after Lung Ruoxue knew the procedure, she felt that it wasn't too difficult to cancel the slave contract and decided to do it herself. However, she still needed President Piyu's cooperation in the process. In order to prevent the official seal of the Quest Guild from being abused by others, a little bit of the blood of a certain guild leader was needed. After Lung Ruoxue was done with the application and stamped it with the official seal, she walked over to President Piyu with a smile. She took out a small and exquisite dagger and waved it in front of President Piyu's eyes a few times before saying, "I'm sorry, guild leader, I need to borrow some more blood." "No, don't. Don't mess around, you'll regret this." When he heard that Lung Ruoxue wanted to use his official seal, President Piyu was already scared out of his wits. Now that he heard that she wanted to use his blood, he suddenly came back to his senses and decided to defend his blood with all his might. He definitely couldn't let this evil person in front of him succeed. Unfortunately, a small arm was no match for a large thigh. The parasol tree kicked President Piyu to the ground and took the dagger from Lung Ruoxue's hand. It stabbed President Piyu ruthlessly at the most fleshy part of his body. Blood gushed out immediately. A certain president's shrill cry sounded like a pig being slaughtered. However, the soundproofing of the president's room was too good so no one in the guild could detect his situation. After Lung Ruoxue had collected enough blood and completed the process of terminating the slave contract, she was ordered to wait on President Piyu and requested him to settle this matter quickly. At this moment, the waiter saw President Piyu sitting on the chair with a smile and nodding at him. Seeing this, the waiter immediately promised that he would finish this matter as soon as possible. Chapter 2672. Who are you? 2. Lung Ruoxue was very satisfied with the waiter's working attitude. She also told him that if he could complete this task within 2 days, she would reward him. As soon as he heard that there was a reward, the waiter immediately promised that he would do his best. However, he kept thinking in his heart, what kind of reward would it be? Would he give him another piece of high-grade crystal? He was looking forward to it. After the waiter left, President Piyu, who was sitting on the chair, immediately became listless and his entire body slid from the chair to the ground. The mother parasol tree who had been standing behind him saw this and picked him up, saying, "Sit tight. You're the guild leader of the Quest Guild. You can't be so listless." "Ooh, I've already done as you said, what else do you want? When will you let me go?" President Piyu, whose wounds were still hurting, looked at the two evil women in front of him with tears in his eyes. Other people were bullied by dogs when the tiger fell into the sun. What was this? How did the fallen Ping Yang get bullied by two vicious dogs? How could he be so unlucky? He really didn't know where these two fiends had come from. He really regretted letting these two vicious dogs in. Now, great, they had their retribution. "Sister, he's calling you two vicious dogs in his heart." Suddenly, Qin Ju's voice rang in Lung Ruoxue's mind. "Is that so?" After Lung Ruoxue heard this, she turned to look at the dispirited President Piyu and said indifferently, "I heard you were scolding us?" No. There's absolutely no such thing. How would I dare to scold you?" When President Piyu heard this, his little face immediately turned pale and he quickly denied it. "Don't try to lie to me. My beastie can read minds. I know everything you're thinking." Lung Ruoxue laughed nonchalantly. How did this happen? President Piyu was so shocked that he was dumbfounded and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. This fact was a huge blow to him. Couldn't he just scold them in his heart to vent his anger? So, why was his life so hard? It wasn't easy for her career to take a turn for the better, but she actually met two fiends. After regaining his senses, President Piyu looked at Lung Ruoxue warily. He did not dare to let his thoughts run wild anymore. However, his fearful gaze made Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree laugh. "Schwer, this old man seems to be afraid." The mother parasol tree gloated. He was not afraid, he was very afraid. The cheeky President Piyu thought to himself unconsciously, "Senior, he just called us vicious dogs in his heart." Lung Ruoxue reminded. When President Piyu heard this, he became even more indignant. Why was he bringing up old scores? "I see." When the mother parasol tree heard this, it cooperated with Lung Ruoxue and revealed a smirk. Then, it took a few steps forward and looked down at President Piyu. "If you call us vicious dogs, what are you?" "I'm a pig. It was a stupid pig. Woo, I was wrong, I won't dare to speak nonsense anymore. Please let me go." President Piyu cried and begged. He was so close to hugging the mother parasol tree's leg and begging for mercy. Of course, it wasn't that he didn't want to hug it. But he didn't have the guts to do so. These two women were not human at all. In order to borrow some blood, she actually stabbed him with a dagger. Was this something a normal person would do? Let you go? Didn't you just want us to marry you? What, you don't need it now? The mother parasol tree was also an expert in digging up old debts, and it kept provoking President Pu, who was trembling in fear. Thanks, no need. No need. I really don't deserve you too, please let me go. When President Pu heard the mother parasol tree's words, his little face turned even paler and he hurriedly admitted his mistake. This isn't a matter of being worthy or not. The key is that those who dare to have ideas about us usually don't have a good end. How do you want to die? The mother parasol tree threatened with an evil smile. Ooh, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I beg you to let me go. Just treat me as a fart and let it go. I was wrong, I was really wrong. President Pu started crying again. He was so remorseful that his intestines turned green. He shouldn't have had any ideas about these two. Now, it was time for retribution. I've said it before, this isn't a matter of letting go or not. Isn't the Mission Guild's purpose to take people's money and get rid of disasters for them? But did you do it? Not only are you not helping us, but you're also trying to get your hands on us. Do you really think you've lived too long? The mother parasol tree said casually. Do you really think that a branch president of a mission guild is that great? You dare to scheme against anyone? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue interjected. I know I was wrong. I was afraid that the Ascender Alliance would take revenge on me, so I didn't dare to help you easily. President Pu choked with sobs. Aren't you afraid of them taking revenge if we marry you? Lung Ruoxue asked with a cold smile. She's my woman, of course I have to protect her. President Pu's heart trembled and he spoke the truth. According to your logic, we should be able to do whatever we want to you, right? After all, you're not anyone to us. Did you offend us again? Lung Ruoxue looked at the pale-faced President Pu and smiled. Don't. I know I'm wrong. I didn't recognize Mount Tai and offended the two ancestors. Please be magnanimous and let me off this time. In the future, I promise that I'll handle all of your matters properly, and it won't be like this. What do you think? President Pu smiled as he discussed. Senior, what do you think? Lung Ruoxue looked up at the mother parasol tree. Trash like him? What can he do? The mother parasol tree looked at President Pu in disdain. I can do a lot of things. My son-in-law is the confidant of the 10th elder of the headquarters. With him around, I can help you in many ways as long as you two ancestors are willing to give me the opportunity. President Pu carefully pleaded. Shue, I still think he's useless. The mother parasol tree was completely unmoved. Hearing this, President Pu's eyes became wet again. Was he really going to die? He was really unwilling to accept this. It's indeed useless. If we kill them, we'll only dirty our hands. Why don't we? Lung Ruoxue only said half a sentence before she stopped. However, her inferiority made President Pu's heart jump to his throat. Cold sweat covered his entire body. This can't be so scary. Why don't we give him another chance? After a long pause, Lung Ruoxue finally spoke. Seeing that his life was finally saved, President Pu's entire body collapsed. Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree revealed a tacit smile. Actually, it was enough to just teach a small fry like him a lesson. They did not intend to kill him initially, but they would not let him off either. After that, Lung Ruoxue took Li Zhong out from the bracelet and pointed at President Pu. Big brother, let him be your servant. This was the president of the Mission Guild. Even though it was only a branch. Chapter 2673. Who are you? 3. Looking at President Pu, who was paralyzed on the ground, Li Zhong was drenched in sweat. Even though he hadn't been in the godly mainland for long, he knew what kind of guild quests were. The Guild of Missions was said to be omnipotent. There was nothing that others couldn't think of, but there was nothing that they couldn't do. Furthermore, their fees were extremely high. When they had wanted to look for Lung Ruoxue, they had considered the Guild of Missions. However, after knowing their lowest fees, They had given up. But now, Shuer wanted him to take in this branch as a servant. Was this a fantasy? Li Zhong felt like he was in a dream. It was too unreal. I don't want to be a servant. You can't do this to me. Hearing the two's conversation, he suddenly realized that they were talking about his President Pu and immediately tried to raise his spirits to protest. You don't have the right to refuse. You can either become my big brother's servant or die. It's your choice. Leng Ruoxue said coldly. Old man, it's better to be a servant. At least I'll be able to keep my life. The mother parasol tree also advised. President Pu was so anxious that he stuttered. He turned his gaze to Li Zhong, trying to find a breakthrough from him. When Li Zhong saw this, he wasn't moved by President Pu's pitiful gaze. He was thinking that since the other party was from the God Lord's estate, offending the God Lord's estate would be very disadvantageous for them. Hence, Li Zhong could only remind Leng Ruoxue that President Pu was from the Divine Master's residence. That's right, President Pu said loudly. I'm a member of the Divine Master's estate. If they find out about this, they won't let you off. With the God Lord's estate as a fox exploiting the tiger's might, President Pu's spirit was instantly lifted. He was so scared that he had actually forgotten the big backer behind the Mission Guild. This was really too much. God Lord's mansion? The Divine Master's estate is nothing. Let me tell you, I have a grudge against the Divine Master's estate. Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly. Li Zhong and President Pu were both stunned. A grudge against the Divine Master's estate? What was the meaning of this? The two of them didn't dare to understand. Upon seeing this, Leng Ruoxue calmly said to Li Zhong, Big brother, I forgot to tell you. That bitch, Wu Han, is my enemy. One day I will get rid of her. Therefore, the God Lord's estate is my enemy. You dare to curse at God Lord Fog Ripple? When President Pu heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he was so frightened that his face turned even paler. His body was like a fallen leaf in the autumn wind, trembling nonstop. He had been scared out of his wits. If it was really as the other party had said, that he had a grudge against the God Lord's estate, then it would not have been easy for him to keep his life. Thinking of this, President Pu became even more afraid. When Li Zhong heard President Pu's words, he was also stunned. The mist ripple slut that Shuer spoke of was actually a God Lord of the Divine World? Since he dared to curse at the Divine Master like that, it seemed like he really had a grudge against the Divine Master. For a moment, Li Zhong looked at Leng Ruoxue with a complicated expression. He couldn't understand why. Shuer had only just arrived in the firmament. How did he become the Divine Master's enemy? However, looking at Shuer, she didn't seem to be afraid at all, so she probably didn't suffer any losses. He could rest assured now. At the same time, he was also glad that he had not asked the Quest Union to find Shuer. Otherwise, regardless of whether they could find Shuer, they would have become the God Lord's estate's prisoners. Wiping the cold sweat on his forehead, Li Zhong looked at Leng Ruoxue, who didn't think much of it, and made up his mind. Shuer, since that's the case, I'll accept this great president as my servant. Big brother will thank you in advance. Big brother, you're welcome. I suddenly remembered that guilds that do missions are very rich. Do you think I should recruit a few more guild leaders to help us accumulate wealth? Leng Ruoxue seemed to be talking to herself. This was something that she had suddenly thought of. She definitely couldn't let Wu Xian have it easy. Since they were already at odds with the God Lord's estate, why not cut off her source of income first? The more Leng Ruoxue thought about it, the more she felt that this was a good idea. The mother parasol tree agreed immediately after hearing that. Li Zhong naturally didn't have any objections. President Pu, who had been listening to their conversation, wanted to faint immediately. Did this count as him hearing the inside story of these people? This time, President Pu knew that he couldn't escape. Not only that, but the entire Mission Guild couldn't escape. But fortunately, there were people who were in the same boat as him, so he felt more balanced. After all, some people's hearts were so dark that they couldn't bear to see others do well even if they were unlucky. Little old man, why don't you recognize me as your master first? There will be someone to accompany you later. Seeing through President Pu's thoughts, Lung Ruox's smile was extremely bright. But her alluring smile, in President Piyu's eyes, was like a devil's smile. Although it was charming, it was also fatal. So, could he refuse? Since she couldn't, why did she still ask for his opinion? Wasn't he playing him like a monkey? At the thought of this, President Piyu was filled with grief and indignation. Thanks, seeing that the other party did not respond, Lung Ruoxue took it as a silent agreement. Then, she turned her beautiful eyes to the mother parasol tree and asked with a faint smile, "Senior, you're very knowledgeable. Do you know what kind of contract is suitable for him?" She didn't want to use a slave contract, nor did she want to use a bloodline contract of a higher standard for the other party. As for the master-servant contract, she was afraid that with the fog, it wouldn't be binding enough, and then her efforts would be in vain. I do know of an ancient contract. It's a combination of a slave contract and a master-servant contract, but the effect is obviously better. More importantly, no one can break this kind of contract. The mother parasol tree understood Lung Ruox's meaning and gave it some thought. That's good, let him use it. Lung Ruoxue pointed at President Piyu. Seeing President Piyu's worried expression, she smiled and comforted him. Don't worry, there will be someone to keep you company. President Piyu's heart was finally balanced, but he had nothing to say. Who could be happy about this kind of thing? Now he really regretted it. A single misstep could cause 1,000 bones to be filled with hatred. However, no one would care about his thoughts. After the mother parasol tree told Li Zhong about the ancient contract that it knew, it just left it alone. Li Zhong also quickly settled the master recognition ceremony, and President Piyu became his servant. Feeling the connection between the two, Li Zhong smiled and ordered, "Little Piyu, in the future, remember to hand over the income of the guild to Shui, understand?" "Yes, master." After recognizing him as his master, President Piyu also accepted his fate and immediately entered the role of a servant. "Be good." Li Zhong coaxed her like he was coaxing a child before letting Lung Ruoxue send him back to the bracelet. In less than 2 days, the Immortal Realm's headquarters had sent back the method to remove the slave restrictions for Li Zhong and the rest. Lung Ruoxue had also rewarded the highly efficient servants as promised. After removing the restrictions for her brothers and subordinates, she brought her men back to the 3rd and 4th alliances. This time, she naturally came back to cause trouble. As for Ying City's guild leader Piyu, even after Lung Ruoxue and the rest left, he was still unable to find out the identity of Lung Ruoxue and the mother parasol tree. When they arrived at the Ascender Alliance's territory, the group first went to the 3 alliances. At the entrance of the 3 alliances, Lung Ruoxue did not want to be as polite as she was the last time. However, the guards of the 3 alliances were rather surprised to see her and the mother parasol tree because there was a rumor that the 2 of them had been burned to death by a sudden fire in the side courtyard. Who were the 2 people in front of them now? However, before they had the chance to voice out their doubts, the mother parasol tree waved its hand and threw out a few green branches. The few guards at the gate immediately stopped breathing and died. Upon seeing this, Li Zhong and the others broke out in cold sweat. They thought to themselves, what a fast technique. What a powerful senior. Go in. The mother parasol tree turned its head and said, before walking in with large strides, "You bastard." She had to find the 3rd alliance master who had sold them out. After living for so long, this was the first time someone had evaluated her value. Seeing that the mother parasol tree could not wait any longer, Lung Ruoxue gave Li Zhong and the rest a look and they immediately split up. Lung Ruoxue followed the mother parasol tree to deal with the 3rd alliance master. As for the eldest miss who had returned to the 3rd alliance, she left her to Li Zhong and the rest to deal with. She also sent her precious little beasts to protect Li Zhong and the rest. When the 3 league masters saw Lung Ruoxue and the parasol tree once again, a look of surprise appeared on their faces. However, he immediately sensed that the 2 of them were different from before and probed, "Shui, Tongo, I'm relieved that you're fine." "We're fine, but you're going to be in trouble." Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. Ever since she left the courtyard, she had asked Green Vessel to keep an eye on the people from the 3rd and 4th alliances. The people who were originally in the courtyard had returned to the third and fourth alliances. This was the time when the two alliances had the most people, so it was the best time to make a move. Shuer, what do you mean by this? Are you jealous that I transferred you to the four alliance masters? I really think that it's better for you to follow him than me. The four alliances, financial resources are enough to cure your illness. In addition, when the courtyard was on fire, I also sent people to save you, but the houses where you lived were all burned to ashes. I thought you were also. I have been sad about this. The third alliance master said to Leng Ruoxue affectionately. Leng Ruoxue couldn't be bothered to look at the other party's Casanova-like appearance. With a look of disdain, she said, "Stop acting. We're not here to watch you act like you're deeply in love. Your actions are really disgusting. Then what are you here for?" The third alliance master didn't understand. He could tell that the two women in front of him didn't come with good intentions, but he didn't know why they did this. "I'm here to take revenge for my big brother and his subordinates." Leng Ruoxue did not hide it anymore. "I don't understand." The third alliance master was even more puzzled. Although he had done a lot of bad things, he really didn't remember offending the other party's subordinates. More importantly, weren't these two women gifts from the fifth master? Since it was a gift, it must be someone without power or support, so why would he have a subordinate? He didn't hear wrong, did he? "Who are you? What's wrong?" the third alliance master finally asked. "I'm Leng Ruoxue. Didn't you already guess it?" Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Hearing this, the third alliance master's heart skipped a beat. Oh no. The other party was actually Leng Ruoxue. It was hateful that he was actually tempted by the other party's beauty and dispelled such thoughts after a moment of suspicion. Now it was all good. What's done is done. He was afraid that the other party would not give him the chance to remedy it even if he wanted to. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.